Okay, good. Mona, nobody heard it now.
Oh.
We fixed it for you.
Oh.
And nobody heard it.
Okay.
There we go. All right, good evening, and welcome to the May 14th, 2019 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. We will get the meeting started with opening exercises. I now call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Whitcamp?
Alan Getty,
Yes.
Ruben Sanchez.
Yes.
Dr. Kathleen Pittman,
That's you, Kathleen.
Here.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards.
Here.
And we have a Pledge of Allegiance by El Capitan.
Kaylee Ann Reese, Yasil Barrientos, Desiree Gonzalez, Adina McAllister.
Thank
I don't have it.
you. Do we have certificates for them? You have them.
I have them.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Good job. Thank you.
How are you?
Mr. Godswill Barak, come up for our moment of appreciation.
Hello. So last Sunday was Mother's Day. So I think it's appropriate that I use this time to kind of say some words to our mothers. So for the mothers in the room, we are grateful for all the time you spend praying for us, for enduring difficult and tough times just for us, for believing in us when no one else would, for cooking our favorite food when you don't have the words to comfort us, for telling us the truth when no one else will, even if it hurts, for your daily sacrifices, your selflessness, for teaching us to be strong, to have good work ethic, and to be kind, for leaving your comfort and support system to give us an opportunity at a better future. For all that you do for us, we just want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
All right, now we're going to have our invocation. Unfortunately, I was a slacker and didn't get anybody to do this, so I will do it. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you for this evening. Thank you for all of our teachers and all of our staff. Lord, and thank you for all of our students. As we come to the end of this year, Lord, we just ask that you would give us the strength, the patience, and the desire to finish well. In your name, amen.
Amen.
And you may be seated. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Mr. President, there are no modifications to the agenda.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Sanchez. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, let's begin with some recognition. Looks like we have the spooky sagas.
We do, and that's kind of a sneaky thing. Last month, I was at Pecos Elementary School for my Soup with the Soup lunch with all the teachers. And one of the things that Dr. Ryan showed me was a book that we have student authors, they were published in. And so I asked for those student authors to come to the meeting tonight and be recognized. You also should be receiving an autographed copy of Spooky Sagas for each of the board members. So I would like to ask Evelyn Garcia, Anastasia Teguera, I hope I said that right, I'm sorry, Diego Lucero, you guys come forward. JD Salazar, Martin Gomez, Gabriela Silva, Anthony Sanchez, and Annalise Milliken. So those are our student authors. Girls, do you have anything you would like to say to the board? Well, let me tell you something. They may not have anything they want to say now, but they had great things to say in their stories. And what an amazing accomplishment. I am so jealous because you are published authors. And what grade are you in? You're like fourth grade? Fifth grade? Holy smoke. That's amazing. And I am so incredibly proud of you. Reading is one of my all-time favorite things. And to know that you guys have contributed to making this world better by publishing a great book, I just want to congratulate you, and I wanted to recognize you in front of the board members and give you a chance to show them and give them a book.
All right. Great job.
Yeah. You don't have the books yet? Oh, okay. Well, do you want to show it to them? You can just show it to them. Show them your copies of your books.
You don't have to open
Yeah.
them or anything. Just be like this.
Yeah,
Those are really cool.
Aren't those adorable?
Those are awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
those are nice.
Looks a little bit like the Harry Potter book
Awesome.
that tried to eat his hand.
Right? But you guys are all going to get special autographed copies
That's exciting.
of those books. And so it's
Thank
always
you.
nice to have an autograph from the author for a book. And so we're excited to be able to get one of those. So thank you, girls, for coming
Thank you guys for
tonight.
coming.
And congratulations, parents,
Yes.
because you know what? They're going to take care of you when you retire. So,
Okay, we have the NMSBA Excellence in Student Achievement Award to the Roswell Symphony Orchestra.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, I just would like to introduce some members of the Roswell Symphony Orchestra Board. More people came in, and so if you guys would come forward. The president of the board is, and I sit on this board, and I hate that I'm part of it to be able to get this, but I just want to tell you that the Roswell Symphony Orchestra Board and the people that work for the orchestra have embarked on an incredible journey and task this year in wanting to provide exceptional enrichment opportunities to our students. So all of the students of this county, and then in Artesia also, are invited to attend every symphony performance for free. And because we know that music enriches their lives, but we also know that it changes those neural pathways, and they are better students as a result of their musical experiences. And as a board, they created an educational enrichment committee. I missed that board meeting and was named co-chair as a result. I've not missed any more meetings, I will just tell you that. But we, with Eddie David and others, were able to have an enrichment dinner. Our Roswell students and Artesia students who were all-state, they had won all-state honors or made the all-state choirs, performed at the enrichment dinner. That dinner generated more than $100,000 for us to be able to continue our efforts and expand our efforts to provide more opportunity for our students to attend these concerts. Our students also have the benefit of having a video or recording from the maestro, who is the past president of the American Conductors Guild, which is actually an international thing. He is consummate musician and conductor of the highest levels, and but he provides insight into the music that will be played, what it takes to be a musician, to be a professional musician, what all of that is, and they learn about dedication. They learn about hard work and putting in the practice on their own. And so the fourth grade music day, I unfortunately was not able to attend, but we had students, all of our fourth grade students from Roswell ISD, we had fourth graders from Dexter, Hagerman, and Lake Arthur attend a special presentation from the Symphony Orchestra. And the symphony paid the busing for the students to be able to attend. So that's what this board is doing. And so I want to thank Ms. Kirk for submitting the application for this, and recognizing the Roswell Symphony Orchestra Board for their efforts to not only improve the quality of life for all of Roswell, but specifically for their incredible efforts to help our kids have experiences that many times only big city kids get to have. And those are some of the goals. That's part of what we want our portrait of an RISD graduate to be, is to have these kinds of experiences. And so we just want to say thank you to the board, and thank you so much for your continued efforts on behalf of the kids of Roswell ISD.
Yeah, thank you very much. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. McElroy, first I want to recognize the FFA students here. Now, I don't know if you're symphony fans or not, but I'm from an ag school, and your superintendent is from an ag school, and there are probably others here from an ag school, and you're welcome at the symphony. And let me tell you why you should come, Mr. Chairman, students and teachers. Research shows that if you become interested in music education, on average, your SAT scores are going to be 40 to 60 points higher in both verbal and math because of music, as Dr. McElroy has indicated, music education. If you're not interested in improving your scores, just come to have fun. Mr. Chairman, we are most grateful, Superintendent McElroy. Indeed, the Roswell Symphony has embarked on a new program of educational enrichment for our students and teachers. Thank you. Gretchen, how are you this evening? I want to introduce the other members of our board and staff who are with us tonight, Janora and Gary Cannon, and Sam Pettit, who is a former president of the board, Kate Graham and Jess Merritt, who are our staff members, and Dr. Ann Lynn McElroy. You know, she was here for a week in her job. And we said, you know, we need to go over and see if we can meet this lady and get her interested in what we want to do in terms of music education enrichment. And it took her 30 seconds to hop on board. And she has been an incredibly contributing member of this Renaissance Roswell Symphony Orchestra Board of Directors this year. And she is a tremendous co-chairman, Education Enrichment Committee. And indeed, she did miss the meeting where she got elected. So we very much appreciate education. I know I'm lecturing to the choir, but it's the way out of poverty. It's the way out of crime. What you are doing as volunteers in our community is just incredible. And teachers, what you're doing is the most valuable thing you can give us in our community. And we thank you so much Thank you for the great kids that are here tonight. We thank you for the recognition. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
If you would just wait 1 second, sir. I'm going to read this from here, and then I'm going to come down and bring it to you, if you don't mind. I'm going to toss it. But this is the, it says Excellence in Student Achievement Award. It's presented by New Mexico School Boards Association in cooperation with the local Board of Education in recognition of the outstanding role played in improving student achievement. So that is your plaque for you to hang. Oh, wait.
Photobomb it back here.
I'm not photogenic. Get out of the way.
I'm photobomb.
This will probably hang in the symphony offices, and what we want is 600 to 800 students in the audience. The next concert is in September, another one in October. We're going the right way. We've gone from a dozen to 50 to 100 to 150. We got 450, 550 more seats, kids. Come on. By the way, parents, if you bring your kids, as long as you got the kid with you, you get a ticket for half price.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we will now have inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak?
Yes, sir, we have one, Madeline Lee.
Okay. Members of the public are reminded that matters of concern may be referred to another source for disposition and will probably be deferred to a subsequent meeting. It is usually not in the best interest of the district, the board, or the public to enter into discussion or to take action without proper research and study. Speakers are requested to limit comments to 3 minutes and must be signed in with the executive assistant to the superintendent prior to the opening of the meeting. Comments will be timed, with a warning given when there are 30 seconds left and when time is up. Any matters regarding specific district personnel or students may not be discussed in public comments. Citizens may have matters of interest brought before the Board of Education for action or discussion through the regularly prepared agenda by filling a written request with their district board member at least 1 week in advance of the meeting in accordance with our ISD board policy. 2 board members may then request the item be placed on the agenda. Copies of Board Policy B 2150 are available on request through the superintendent's office. All persons in attendance or making public comments at board meetings shall conduct themselves in a dignified and respectful manner, exhibiting proper social decorum. Confine their comments to matters germane to the business of the district. Avoid references, statements, or conduct reasonably likely to result in disruption or undue delay in the orderly transaction of business scheduled for consideration by the board. Refrain from interfering with the functioning duties of the members of the board and staff or with the presentations of any speakers. Refrain from using language or statements which may be reasonably construed to be insulting or tend to violence or a breach of the peace, including profanity, obscenity, or other breach of respect. Refrain from cumulative, redundant, or repetitive marks. Please have one speaker from any particular group represent the entire group. Okay, we're ready. Madeline? Did she go? She got a little scared. Well, that's a bummer.
Very, very nicely.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Well. Okay then. Then I recommend approval of. Wait. What did I do? What did I do? I skipped something, didn't I?
Presentation. By the clean energy
Yeah,
technology students from University High School.
informational items.
I'm out of order, but this is out of order. So. let me-
Okay.
So we have a presentation by the clean energy students from University High School. You guys want to come forward and do your presentation?
This is where I'm at right
I know
here.
this is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Judy. Sorry, guys.
Mr.
President, Dr. McElroy. Excuse me.
McElroy, it's hard.
McElroy.
Dr. Mack's fine.
Members of the board. As you may know, we're from University High, and we have been working on some clean energy projects since the beginning of the semester that we will be presenting for you today. My name is Jaden, and these are my classmates.
Hello, my name is Anthony Jones. I am going to be going over the project procedures as well as the wind turbines. To start off with our project procedures, we started out with a real-world scenario. This always led to a knows and need to knows, the subjects that we're aware of and subjects that we need to be more aware of. After which left us questions, such as vocabulary, functionality, theology, and the mathematical formulas to find the efficiencies. So going into that, we did our background research and jumped straight into designing and prototyping. Our designing and prototyping phase usually started with paper, brainstorming, and then straight into the lab. We would compare two different projects or multiple different projects against each other to get different data to find the most effective cost as well as energy efficiency. Going on that, with our wind turbines, we were tasked with finding the wind tip speed ratio, which is the rotation of the blades compared to the wind speed. But we had to do it by redesigning the blades. Most of our designs were mainly based off of bird wings, marine animal fins, and as well as plane wings. But it didn't stop there. We later had to go through and adjust its pitch, solidity, blade weight, length, width, and size.
Hello, my name is Luke Lara, and I'll be presenting an electromagnetic DC motor. This motor is connected to a power source that sends current to some alligator clamps that is connected to these copper brushes. Some of our main tasks were to see which group can create an efficiency torque. The torque is what move these armatures. These armatures are wrapped with 100 feet of copper wire going clockwise. In order for these armatures to spin, it has to be wrapped continuously, not so loose, but it has to be compact, tight, in order to get these positive and negative magnets to get the armatures to continually spin.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Avery, and we'll be presenting our solar panels. And we had to create solar panels with silicone cells for underdeveloped countries, using less materials than the average solar panel. And ultimately, our goal was to build a cost-efficient energy source so that these would be affordable for the underdeveloped countries. And our solar panel was built for an internet router, 6 volts, but it could power other things with equivalent voltage and current.
In order to create a series circuit, you have to solder your tapping wire onto the positive side of a cell, then grab another cell and solder the other one to the negative side of the cell. And you at least have to, and you gotta repeat that process until you have at least 3 in order to complete a series circuit. And to create a parallel circuit, you have to solder your tapping wire onto multiple pieces of, or you have to solder your tapping wire onto the positive side of multiple pieces of cells. And then once you're done with that, you connect all of them using another longer piece of tapping wire. And from there, whenever you finish that, you gotta repeat that same process to do it to the negative side in order to complete your parallel circuit. And as my classmate Kevin said, we did ours to power a internet router for underdeveloped countries. And it could also be used for any other thing that could be used that has just as equivalent volts or even less. Any questions?
Nice.
There's a bigger one down there.
Mm-hmm.
What's that
Yeah.
one for?
Is,
It charges an iPhone 7, 5 volts.
Nice.
wow.
Awesome.
So are y'all going to go through the process of getting this patent?
They could. We haven't discussed that, but it is possible that within their research and maintaining their engineering notebook,
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool.
Good
All
luck.
right. These are awesome. I love
Yeah.
that windmill. How much wind do you have to make it go? I mean, we live in New Mexico, so you know.
Yeah.
We're walking outside with it to transfer it to the car, to bring it here, and it would spin immediately.
Mhm.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, you can actually see it kind of
Yeah,
wanting
it's
to move
trying.
with
It's
the,
like-
With
with
the
just
air
the air
conditioner.
conditioning. So that's
Yeah.
pretty efficient stuff.
Very cool.
Good thought when it came to your wings there, or the what do you call them, tips or blades?
Blades.
You know, developing it, you know, looking like a wing or a fin or something like that. So
Very cool.
it'd be very interesting to see it work one of these days if you guys have the time.
Yeah.
So I have a special request. I actually, I have a meeting on Thursday at 10 o'clock in my office with a company called EDF Renewables, and it's a wind turbine company. I'd love for y'all to be able to come and sit in on that meeting. They're coming to just talk to me about a project that they're developing around Roswell. And I would love to, because here's the deal. It's those kind of connections that get you jobs. And that's what we're all about, is we want you to be able to transfer this and turn your diploma into dollars. And so I would love if that would be at all possible. I could approve that field trip request. I'll come get you in the Suburban. But I would love for you guys to be able to attend that meeting on Thursday at 10, if at all possible.
Thursday's an EOC day. If we have permission to move the EOC, then I don't
There you
think
go.
it'd be opposed to
So anyway, I think it would be a great opportunity for you guys to see the real world application of what you're learning here. And I think it would be incredibly impressive to that particular representative from that company to see what you guys are capable of doing at the high school level. And like I said, always job prospects out there. So
Boy, that's a win-win.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so we'll talk about that more. But anyway, just wanted to open that invitation to you because this is amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. With that, we will move on to the approval of the minutes.
Of the regular meeting?
Yeah, of the regular meeting.
So I recommend approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 9th, 2019, and the special board meeting of April 16th and 2019.
Are there any corrections, deletions to the minutes?
None noted.
If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk, a second made by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Those opposed, same sign. All right, the consent agenda is up now.
No, the meeting of the special.
Special meeting.
The
April 16th.
approval of
Recommend-
special board meeting minutes.
You did
We
that.
put 'em
We
together.
put them together.
Oh, okay. It's just different on our deal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Regular
Okay.
and then special.
Okay.
I did them together.
Okay.
So did we,
We
That's
approved
what
the
I
minutes.
recommended approval of
We
Both?
recommended
Both.
approval
Okay.
of
okay.
both.
the regular board meeting and the special board meeting.
Gotcha.
The one on 409 and the one on 416.
Yes.
Okay.
So
we're
noted.
Okay. So now the consent agenda.
And I recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Is there any discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. James Edwards and a second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Action items. We have a donation to East Grand Plains from Fairlife Milk Producers.
Remove.
Got milk?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a donation from Fairlife Milk Products for the value of playground equipment.
$10,000.
What was the dollar amount of that?
$10,000.
$10,000.
That's
Very
amazing.
Which will buy us one little bitty piece, but we'll get it, man.
one little section.
Very good. So, is there any discussion?
I got one thing to kind of bring up, and it's kind of triggering my memory on having some past conversations with other schools when it comes to playground equipment. This is great, so let's keep this going, and I emphasize to every building leader, let's ask for this money because it's out there and we can do some good things. One thing that has came up though, and maybe this is a Chad Cole question or maybe Dr. McElroy, sometimes in some of our playground equipment, we've got some old stuff that may be skirting the limits when it comes to safety. Sometimes we'll have stuff that's removed and we got stuff still hanging around. What can we do as a district to look at that? Maybe what I'm asking for is, can we reach out to the schools, do an inventory of what we got? If there's stuff that needs work, can we use district dollars to help that out? And especially if we've got, poles left from a slide or something like that, to where we can maybe get that stuff removed so we don't have any issues. What can we do, Chad? Educate.
Yes, sir. And so absolutely. So the last 2 summers, I've gone out to the schools myself with our maintenance folks, and we've put together checklists of things that are going on at the schools and things that we need to look at and things that we need to address. So I think that's the right approach. If there's a specific, if maybe, off
Yeah, on the
site,
sideboard with conversation, I can probably give you a couple schools that reached out where it's just, it's pushing the limits of, we might want to either remove it or.
Absolutely.
Or one thing, do we have to, when it comes to playground equipment, do we have to bring in funds from outside sources, or do we have a nest egg to,
So
bring
this
that in
was
if a school needs it? Because there's some schools that you see, great playground equipment, and you got some schools that don't
and
have.
some have done fundraising and some have not.
Right.
Some have saved their 2 mil funds over several years' time. We allowed them to carry it over, and they would save it up and then purchase their playground equipment. So that was a good strategy for them. This year was kind of an odd duck year because we were up in the 6-year cycle for 2 mil funding. So that's comprised of both local 2 mil funds that are raised here at the county level, which the voters thankfully approved for us. And then the other contingent piece on that first piece is the state matching of those funds. So with voters of Chaves County approval, again, thank the voters, can't thank them enough. We have those funds secured for the next 6 years. That was a big question mark going into this year with the election coming up. Would we have those funds available? So there wasn't a whole lot of activity, and we kind of said, why don't we hold back a little bit and see what happens with this before we try and do something crazy, that type of thing. But yes, sir, the funds are there.
Okay.
That's what 2 mil funds are for, typically playground equipment, computers, furniture, building improvement, land improvement. They can be used for those, both sources, yes, sir.
I know Miss Ingram's here, but that comes to mind too. I don't really see too much for those kids, and but then again, you're thinking about the future. What happens when we start working on Nancy Lopez? Does that hurt us? So there's a lot of moving parts there too. But maybe just once over again, and then we can talk about it. So,
But most
anyway.
of our, Mr. Cole,
Yes, ma'am.
good question. Most of our schools that have been remodeled, don't they have pretty new equipment?
Yes. As you know, Valley View is a perfect
Yeah.
example of that. But yeah, when we go through a renovation or a remodel or a rebuild, we address the playground areas as well. So that's part of it. We also address Promethean boards, any number of things. But the buildings get 2 mil funds. And again, we allocate that out based on the student population of the building site themselves. So, it's always an incentive to keep your kids in school and those types of things. So it's a good thing. And again, with 2 mil funds, which is different than the other funds that we carry as a district, we've allowed them to carry over when it's not an election year. From year to year, so that they can stockpile those funds to make major purchases like an entire playground set. Yes, sir.
Because from what I understand too, when it comes to like the $10,000, it's not, hey, let's go look online and hey, that's $9,999. No, you've got to buy the $4,000 piece of equipment because you got to pay $6,000 for labor. So that's where sometimes I look to see if we can help out in the district, with some of those bigger ticket items. And
And our concern is also meeting the standards.
Right.
And those standards have kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. You know, for a while there, you couldn't use wood chips, and then it came back, well, you can use wood chips, but they're not recommended. All of those things. So we do like for them to go through our construction, Mr. Mac Rogers, and our maintenance group with Sean Benedict. They're up to speed on code, safety, OSHA requirements, all of those things. And so we work as a team on those things. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just asking, you know, maybe just let's knock it out one more time, and I've just had a couple inquiries on, you know, what we do, and I said that's a chat hole question.
I appreciate it.
But anyway, we can talk about
And
that later, Chad.
this is a great year to do it. We're not
Yep.
moving portables or any of that kind of stuff
Perfect.
this summer, so it's, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
And thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to
Hey,
approve that
thanks.
since I
All
kept
right.
everybody up.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez, a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. We have items purchased with the $2,000 Walmart grant to Mesa Middle School. These are the benches, right?
Yes, the benches and tables for Brendo Middle School, and I recommend approval to accept the items purchased with the Walmart grant to Brendo Middle School.
Okay, is there any discussion? Seems like we've been talking about these for a couple months.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Kirk and Mr. Sanchez with the second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We have Roswell High School FFA out-of-state travel.
I'm not gonna say anything, because I think they're gonna say it.
They're gonna say, oh, they're coming on up.
But I do recommend approval of the FFA out-of-state travel for Roswell High School.
Dr. McElroy, Mr. Getty, members of the board. We are from Roswell High FFA, as you know, and my name's Chester Montgomery.
Jimmy Loudermilk. Zach Mobley.
And we have one other teammate that is currently not here. He's working right now. That's Mr. Pierce. You'll probably know him. We recently won state for the CDE contest agronomy, and we are seeking approval to go to nationals in Indianapolis, Indiana in October.
October the
awesome.
30th through November the 2nd.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Okay. You guys have anything else you want to say? Have any questions from up here?
You guys good with travel arrangements and getting there?
Very cool.
Okay.
So
But do we actually got a halfway decent method of travel?
Halfway
Fine.
decent?
They're flying.
Because I remember a couple years ago, it was an old raggedy Suburban,
Oh.
and these poor guys were just, you know, I was like, wow.
I know they got new trucks,
So,
so,
but you guys are good to go?
yes,
Okay.
sir.
cool. All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez and a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion carries.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
And it looks like Goddard High School has a group of FFA as well.
Absolutely. Good luck. Good luck.
Congratulations, do good. Congratulations. You bet. Good job.
Thank you, guys. I feel so special. So, we're all from Goddard High School. Caleb Doss, I'm Chandler Hatch, Tim Hartwell, Kelsey Morley, and Lana Morley. We won the state CD competition, the meets evaluation. And we're seeking permission to go to Indianapolis, Indiana with them as well, I guess.
With them.
Yeah.
Cool.
You guys going in the same wagon?
No, sir.
Oh, all right. Little rivalry there. That'd be kind of awesome. Long
Put
trip
some
for that.
window chalk.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Blue
We don't want to hear about anything that could get ugly. You guys racing down the freeway.
Safe driver. Just asking you.
Oh, good.
Really
Well,
funny. We were at a city meeting this morning, a joint meeting between the district and the city, and the deputy city manager is so jealous of you guys because he said when I was in high school, I wanted to be a butcher, and they had just gotten rid of the program, and now they've got it back, and he says, you know, I'm so jealous that they get to do that because that's what I always wanted to do. He became a fireman instead, I think, for a while, and now he's deputy city manager. But anyway, so you know that there are people out there that envy your ability to be able to go and do these things and do it at such a high, remarkable level. So
it's very cool. It's very cool.
I don't know if the members remember, but last year they were announced state champions.
Yep.
And they ran the scores wrong. So we went back
I
this year
remember.
and we won by over 100 points. So
Good.
And there's no
There you go.
discrepancy.
So now there's no question.
No chance.
Yeah,
No
good.
question.
Blew it out of the water. Awesome.
Very cool. Well, if there is there any other discussion?
I just really want to say, you know, every time you guys show up, you know, Roswell High and Goddard, you know, you always present yourselves very well. I always want to tell you that. Thank you guys for holding them to that stature to where when they come in, you know, we're gonna play the part of FFA, and you guys always do it very well. So thank you for wearing that proud and representing Roswell when you guys do these things. So we know you'll do well up there. So
Very impressive
yeah,
young
very
men
impressive.
and
Yeah,
young
very cool.
ladies.
You guys look very sharp. Thank
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Well, wait, hold on. We haven't approved it yet.
Wait, we gotta think about it.
So I do recommend approval of this trip.
Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
And a second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second made by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Okay.
Congratulations, guys. There you go.
Congratulations. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Congratulations. Good luck.
Go up there and kill them.
Impressive.
I think you did. You bet. My pleasure. Anytime.
Okay.
Okay, fine arts application.
Next, we move to approval of the 2019-2020 Fine Arts Education Act application.
President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board, thank you for allowing me to come and speak this evening. So each year I come and talk about our program, that we work with over 5,700 students, and there were art on the cart. But a lot of that data is in, and each of you should have received the application. So this year, I just want to highlight some of the new things that we've done this year. So we've been changing and growing a lot this year, and one of those things is through curriculum and instruction. We implemented the National Core Art Standards, which was adopted by the state of New Mexico last year. And in doing that, we had a training at the end of the year, and we invited other people around the state. We actually brought in one of the gentlemen who helped write the standards. And so it was a great collaboration and understanding of what the new standards had to say, which actually give us a lot of freedom in what we can do. And then with that, we wanted to start creating the standard-based guides for Arts Connect, which align with what our general education has for our ISD as well. So we're really excited to have an additional team member this year. And we have an arts integration specialist. Chris Ard came on board. And this is not going in and teaching another art section. This is teaching the Common Core standards, ELA, math, science, areas that teachers feel that students are struggling in. So Ms. Ard would go to the PLC meetings. She would communicate with teachers and find out where they were struggling, and then she would develop lessons that went with that. And so these are just some samplings of what she has done. This last quarter, she did a little more STEAM work with them. And so the teachers in the classroom also assist with this. And that's the importance of knowing the data and having that collaboration with each of the general ed teachers.
Can I just say in the previous slide, that's awesome that the kid is actually holding a camera and not a phone.
Yeah, and it's a
So we're actually
Polaroid
using a
camera.
camera, photography.
Yeah,
Really cool, huh?
it was a Polaroid, so instant gratification there
you
as
go.
well.
That's awesome.
And then our sixth grade program changed this year. We had our performing arts teachers go out into each of the middle schools. So they go to two middle schools, and my visual arts are at the other two middle schools, and then we switch. But the performing arts team, we started with ukulele, but it developed more into the ORF methodology because sixth grade's really the last chance they get to experience all of the arts before they start making those decisions. You know, do I want to go into drama? Do I want to, stick more with the visual? Or, do I want to join the band or choir? So we want to give them that chance to see where their gifts and talents are. And then we had our visual arts team take over Raku. Previous years, we've contracted that out. But I have amazing, amazing teachers with a lot of knowledge. And so they jumped in. And so on Mondays, they were out at the schools. And they went through helping students understand what is clay, what can we do with it, and they built. We ended up going into more of a functional art piece instead of, in the past we've done totems or masks. They made speakers for their iPods or iPhones, and each of the students were able to see how the Raku process works and had their piece Raku fired. This was a big change for us this year on student educational field trips. In the past, we have brought in community artists to work with our students, but this year we wanted to go out and see artists in their environment. And so we have had the second and third grade. They had performing arts. Second grade went to Mr. Blue Shoes, where they learned about the blues and the history of it in an interactive way. Third grade had a multicultural event. Sigit Zimmerman was from Israel, and she has traveled the world, and so she introduced different instruments to the students, and they got to get up and dance and move. And fourth grade, we didn't send out because they have a lot of community field trips in the spring. But my fourth grade teacher, Kristen Higginbotham, got together with the symphony and found out what they were going to be playing. And so she kind of went in ahead of time and taught the instruments and what songs they would be playing. And so they came back because Miss Higginbotham went, and she said when they started playing one of the songs, everyone just went, oh, because they all knew. So it made it a little more meaningful. And then our fifth grade don't get a lot of field trips. So we sent them to the Spencer Theater, which was an awesome opportunity. The Spencer Theater has a grant that they do through New Mexico Arts, and it provided us with being able to just pay $5 per kiddo for a ticket. And so they saw Polynesian dancers. And then we sent our fifth grade to San Patricio. And this is probably one of my favorites that happened this year because we bring in inspiration for students to create art all the time. But I thought how amazing that we have one of the most beautiful landscaped artists around, Peter Hurd, and he has a museum up there. And Miss Doyle went and collaborated with them on how we could come up and have our field trip. So we drove all the fifth grades up in buses. They got to go through the museum, but then they went outside and they captured their own image of the landscape and painted it. So it was very exciting. And we also got to meet Michael Hurd, rather. He came out and visited with the students. And then they had a beautiful picnic lunch out there. And then last but not least, community collaboration. So we have Celebrate the Arts every year. This year we changed it, and we collaborated with Roswell Museum and Art Center. And last Thursday, we had an event there, and we had over 570 in attendance. It was massive, but exciting. And so my teachers facilitated different activities that related to New Mexico and the displays that the museum had. And so students and parents got to wander through the museum and create their own art. And we heard lots of comments like, I've never been here before. And so it was exciting and fun and a great, I mean, RMAC, the people there are just wonderful to work with. And then we're trying something new with having students perform. And we're going to be out in front of the town hall, city hall, and we're hoping we get great attendance. This is kind of a toss-up. We don't know how many we'll get because we work with 800 students per grade level. So we've asked parents and community members to bring their lawn chairs and blankets, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students are going to be performing a couple of things that they've learned in the school year. So fun and new.
When is this?
This is on the 21st in the evening at 6 o'clock out on the courthouse lawn.
Of May.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So I just want to take the liberty real quick just to let you know my whole staff is here, and what an amazing group they are. They are on their feet all day, every day, going, and they're brilliant at it. So I'm very blessed with who I have to work with. So, do you have any questions?
I just want to tip my hat to you guys. I mean, the impact that you guys have on kids in this district, the stuff that comes through your classrooms or out in the field or whatever we're doing is amazing. And I can tell you, for one, my son, who's a 5th grader, was out in San Patricio and had Mr. Hurd, or Peter Hurd's
Michael.
Michael Hurd.
Yeah, Peter
Hurd's brother
son.
Michael
Yeah.
talked to him, and he was just blown away. And he was, Dad, do you know there's a museum there with Peter Hurd Museum? I'm like, I did not know. Drove past it 100 times. I do it weekly, but didn't know it was there. So he's even bringing that to light. But just what he got out of that, being outdoors, which is always great. It's amazing what happens in kids' head when you get them out of a
Right.
classroom, or you get them off of a computer, get them off their phones, get them outside, let them soak up some vitamin D for once, which is awesome. And then just what triggers there. He was just, blown away. And my kid's outside all the time, but it was San Patricio, and it was beautiful. And he got to paint some things. So I just hear it all the time. Everything that you guys do is amazing. And I just tip my hat to you guys. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for taking the time to go out to schools. Thank you for taking them out to the field and thinking of new things and how to trigger that and how to get that noggin pumping again. So thank
It's
you
really
for
good.
everything that you do. And thank you for leading the church.
Thank you guys. And my kids come home all the time with art stuff. And they're like, oh, today in art. Okay, but the recorders, I don't know if that's an art thing.
It is. It is.
Mr. Earwood, when they came home,
How is Hot Crop Buns
I-
going?
Yeah.
like outside, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious.
That was good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because they play that. They just play it. But thank you so much. It's really cool. It really is. And even though I'm making jokes, it's pretty fun.
Yes. And I echo their sentiments too, and I know firsthand exactly how hard y'all work. It was a pleasure working with you and supervising, and I just am so proud of you, Abby, of where you've taken this program. They are very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Blessed. They're very blessed, and you've done wonderful things.
Thank you.
So I commend you and the hard work, and I guess there's still one original left. Gretchen, we appreciate all you do, honestly. You're amazing, and you're still contributing, and thank you all for what you do
Thank you
for our
guys so
kids.
much.
So one
Anything
thing I
else?
would like to add is last week when I was I was in Chicago at a National Superintendent Symposium with Discovery Education, and had the opportunity to sit and visit with some people from the Nashville Metro schools in collaboration with Vanderbilt University and the Frist Museum in Nashville. And they were talking about their collaboration, and I said, well, let me tell you what we do. And they were so jealous of how this program is set up, and they love the concept of you guys being able to collaborate together and then take that out into the schools. And then the other key concept that they talked about is how this integration needs to be strategic and intentional. And it's, and so I got to tell them about how at each grade level, there's a different set of experiences that kids are introduced to. And they were just blown away by what you guys have created at CLC and through CLC. And so I got to brag, and I bragged a lot.
Thank you.
And so thank you for giving me bragging rights at a National Superintendent Symposium. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, anytime.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, Mr. President, I do recommend approval of the 2019-2020 Fine Arts Education Act application.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And seconds.
All right, well,
Pick whichever one you want.
Yeah.
all right, motion made by Mr. Edwards, second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank
Yay,
you, guys.
Good job.
Congratulations,
Thank
guys.
y'all.
Next, we have the State Bilingual Multicultural Education Program Funding Application.
And thank
So
y'all
I
for being here.
Thank y'all for coming. I appreciate
Thank you, guys.
So I do recommend approval of the State Bilingual Multicultural Education Program funding application.
Do we have any discussion?
I have questions.
Okay.
So Andrea Nieto Walker will be able to answer your questions.
So thank you guys for taking the time, and thank you for coming, Dr. Nieto. So just a quick question. I'm looking at the funding application. It's a little different, so maybe you have to update me on what's changed. What I'm used to seeing is a little different document. Did that change?
Yes, the whole application process changed and the questions. They had a task force
Okay,
this past summer, and they revamped the whole application.
okay. One flag that I see is 304. Is that 304 students in the district?
Yes.
Total for the?
Mhm.
Okay. Can I ask why it's only 304?
A lot of them is the teachers, like in Sunset, we're missing 3, 4, and 5 bilingual teachers there.
Okay,
EGP dropped. Nancy Lopez, we don't have a teacher for 3, 4, 5.
okay.
So, and it's required to have a bilingual teacher in those classes or in that grade in order to count those students.
Okay. It just seems that 304 is pretty low compared to the thousands of kids that we have. That's where I'm concerned with the 304, and we've got thousands that could probably utilize this.
Right.
So you said East Grand Plains dropped. Is there a reason why a school dropped?
Part of it is from the numbers, and the questions that you have there were sent out to the principals. They were supposed to get input from all the stakeholders, and that wasn't done.
That didn't happen?
No.
Okay. So in a scenario where we have that happen, what do we do to offer support so we don't end up in a scenario where we're dropping the school? Because, I get it. Okay, we're putting a lot on a principal or leadership in the
Right.
building to get you what you need. If we see something come up to where maybe they need support or they need help, or what are we offering those individuals in that scenario to where people aren't falling or schools aren't falling?
Well, the thing is, what we're gonna do is a needs analysis with all the stakeholders to show the data that that's something that's needed there.
Okay.
And then move forward from there. Right now, we can't apply because there was a deadline, but as far as the support for the ELs, we will have that as we do with the rest of the schools that aren't bilingual, so that we can reapply if there's a need there which I
Okay.
think there is, but that we can't apply for it till next
Yeah,
year.
because I can probably tell you firsthand East Grand Plain needs it. I
Mhm.
mean, we've got tons of kids there that could use this, this type of program. Did we see a difference in numbers from this year versus last year?
As far as what? As,
Like, so this year we had 304, last year,
right.
did we
And
have
the
a
numbers
drop?
have gone down, right,
Okay.
because of the numbers of teachers that aren't in those
Okay.
grade levels.
And then a school dropping too?
Right. And
Okay.
like, for example, Nancy Lopez has a pullout, but she can't do all the Spanish and do all the ELD. That's too
Right.
many kids for one teacher.
Okay.
So we hit K1, 2, and then it got dropped. So we're hoping to get teachers to continue with the 4, 5 as in Sunset, just to continue that, because at the middle school and high school, we've got those teachers in place now. So
Okay.
now we need that, continue
That
that path.
transition,
Mhm.
yeah.
Is there any type of support we can offer to where we don't end up in that scenario at a school, to where, we're not short?
Well, part of it is teachers that we
Recruiting.
have that are bilingually endorsed that are refusing to utilize that bilingual endorsement.
Really?
That is a,
And that's not just- that's not
okay,
just
I can go
Roswell.
there.
that's, it's problematic. And part of that is, issues from the past.
Mhm.
And support issues, things like that. So our big task is to really try to work hard with those teachers and encourage them to come back into the program so that we can offer a full continuum of service, and we don't have these interruptions of service on grade levels. We have quite a number of bilingually endorsed teachers in our district. We've also done some recruiting of bilingually endorsed teachers because that is a priority for us. We want to be able to offer a full range of services, a robust service from pre-K to 12th grade for any student that is in need. But again, we're not, if we don't have an endorsed teacher, we are not allowed to count those kids.
Yep.
And so therefore, we can't include them on the application. So part of it is gonna be winning those bilingually endorsed teachers back over, and asking them to trust us again, and give us a chance. And,
Okay.
and that's gonna be, some salesmanship on our part. It's, something that we've, also discussed with our union representatives as far as stipends and things like that, that might entice those, teachers to once again utilize that all precious bilingual endorsement, because it is precious, let me tell you, that bilingual endorsement, so we can offer the full range of services.
So I have a question then on that line.
Go ahead.
Were they not feeling valued? Is that the reason they left? Was it extra paperwork? Was it the stress?
I think it was a combination of things, and let me
It
go ahead and I'll
was.
fill in on it, but.
Yeah, it was. It was also some, from what I understand, misapplication of how that instruction needed to be done and conducted. It was.
Curriculum's another big deal.
Yeah, curriculum is a huge issue, something that we are currently addressing. There was some real questions about who should and should not be tested, and when they shouldn't be tested. And so it was a very multifaceted problem, and it was longstanding. And so it's just some things that I think with Andrea's leadership in this, and very clear vision for what she wants to see happen with our English learner population, and providing, making sure the resources are available, that our teachers are trained on how to utilize those resources, and how it is not in addition to, but is an integral part of our overall day-to-day curriculum, and so that our kids have that full range. But so it was lots of different things, and I think we probably have really only kind of touched the tip of the iceberg at this point, you know, but as we have really tried to start diving into that, we're learning more and more. And so we're hoping that we can correct some of the past misunderstandings, so we can encourage those teachers and be able to use again that precious license that they have, that endorsement in bilingual.
Well,
Because
one
the
of
thing
the-
is, those teachers still use it.
Yeah.
They're just not using it for this program, you know, because, and that's the thing. And so we would love to be able to bring them back into the fold, but welcome them and support them and embrace them and support them.
And I guess one of the reasons why I asked that question is I did have one approach me several times this year saying that she did not feel supported and that she was going to leave the program or retire because of the lack of support. So I was wondering if there's anything we can do from our standpoint.
Well, part of it too is, you know, there's not a ready-made curriculum out there. So it's going to be a process of basically creating our own. And we have great curriculum people within our district that know how to do that, know how to train people to do that. We have great curriculum writers that write and consult doing curriculum writing that would be phenomenal experts to help us with that. But it also is there's been a philosophical shift in bilingual education as well. And so some of it is rigidity in our thinking. You know, we need to step out and adopt that growth mindset of, you know, things don't always stay the same, but we have to grow as our profession grows. And so it is a very multifaceted issue that there's not one quick, easy answer, but it is something that we are working very diligently on.
Thank you.
So, I think here's my take-home message. And as you guys know, when it comes to bilingual, my radar goes off, and it's been that way since I've been in this seat. So every year I think we've kind of seen progress forward per se, but I think we start the motion and then we kind of fall back, and then we end up kind of in the scenario to where Mona Kirk brought up, you know, I think it's the support issue. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to ensure that those teachers that do have that endorsement, that they do feel that they're valued. Because one of these days they're going to need it. And if we're dropping a school for the sake of, hey, the leadership of the school didn't get what we needed, that's where I think, in my opinion, we're failing. Because that should never happen. It should be, what do we need to do to get there? What support do I need to give you to where we can get that going in that school and we continue with this program? My biggest question with this is, for next year, for 2019 and 20, we only have 304 kids in this entire district bilingual. In my opinion, that's a big problem. You know, if out of the, okay, give or take 11,000 students we have, I mean, I know they're not all dealing with bilingual, but the amount that are in elementary school that aren't getting these services. And okay, and I'm asking for a crystal ball fix today, but what I might be asking for is there anything that we can do in the interim and to raise that number from 304 to something else before our deadline is up? Are we stuck with having to vote on this today, or can we do something later?
So let me clarify. There may be 304 that we're going to get funded for. That does not mean we're not going to serve the others. Does that make sense? I mean, it
does, but
it stinks.
It's a big
that
difference
we're
from the previous years.
only going to be getting funded for this number of students, but that's something that we'll have to pick up, quite frankly, out of operational, because we know those services still need to occur. And so that's something that you know, we'll have to take that hit this year on our budget, because we're still going to serve those kids and we're going to serve them well.
So you're saying that 304, we're stuck with 304 period?
For this year, because this application is.
Right, that's for the bilingual portion, that's not the EL services.
Okay.
Yeah.
The bilingual portion, yes, and like
So the bilingual portions are those kids that are basically
getting the
monolingual.
monolingual Spanish.
And,
versus
and
the-
they're learning, they're in the first year
Mhm.
of learning English.
They're
Okay.
getting Spanish and English.
Okay, so what's our next step on, you gave us the vision, so what would be our next step as far as, okay, here's what we're gonna do to, start talking multicultural and working on our support, how do we get these schools back on board, how do we ensure that our teachers with that endorsement feel valued beginning of next year?
So there's work to be done. I mean, it's basically looking at, and I don't have all the answers, and Andre may
and-
have something completely different, but, I think we have to start with our teachers first, because we have to put those endorsed, people in those, in classrooms. And so really and truly, so what does support look like to you? Because you might define it differently than the person next door to you.
Well,
And so,
yeah.
and that's a rhetorical question, but asking teachers, what supports are you not receiving? What do you need to feel successful with your kids?
Can we send a survey out or something like that to those
Well,
individuals,
I mean,
kinda like what we did, and what do you need?
that's an easy meeting,
Right.
honestly.
Well, and here's the thing, like, if you have a meeting, we've all been there. Who's gonna stand up and say, I mean, you might have onesie twosies, but, if we do like a survey, like we did earlier, like how your principal's doing, how's leadership, how's administration, maybe you'll get a little bit more, and then then we can build a meeting to where, okay, we've got this nest egg of concerns, or what their vision is, and then from there, then we can start addressing, and then we can hit little points, but.
Well, I think part of that too is when you talk about support, because I've talked to teachers too, don't feel supported within their school. But we are having a training for all administrators so they can kind of see what it is that their teachers are going, and so that they can help those teachers, support those teachers.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, some of our administrators don't know much about bilingual or ELs. So May 30th and 31st, we're having
Okay.
all administrators just starting there, so they can help support those teachers.
And please don't think that I'm pointing fingers. It's just, we've had this monster for a while, and it seems to keep coming up and coming up and coming up, and we're doing more of the same. And in this point, it was, wow, the number's even lower. So I thought we were kind of trying to move here, and then we're going down. I get it, but I think let's try and find a process for it. Let's have next steps. Let's have those milestones to where have a 90-day plan for bilingual. What are we going to do to get there? And then, so the board's aware, leadership's aware, our teachers are aware. I'll get off my soapbox, but
Well,
I think
yeah.
you're getting where I'm coming from, and
Absolutely.
okay.
Well, and I think, the training is also going to help, because, I mean, quite frankly, we have some administrators that just don't want to acknowledge that they need to have a bilingual program in their school.
And that is a problem.
That is a
Because they
major
do.
problem, absolutely. I mean, because you want to talk
can I
about an
interject?
equity issue. That's a
Right.
huge equity issue right there.
And
And so,
can
but
I
that's something
interject?
that's going to be addressed in the training. I think they just flat don't get it. They
Right,
don't,
in the high
they
school
don't
redesign,
understand.
there'll be some, now that we're getting to where the ELs will be purposely scheduled first. That's what
Okay.
we've done, I've done before in past districts, so working with Mr. Godswill. That's something we're looking forward
Okay.
to make sure that those kids get what they need.
Ms. Lawson, did you have a?
Dr. McElroy addressed it, so
Okay.
equity of access
Right.
is on the forefront, and with Ms. Nieto Walker leading the efforts with the equity pieces as well, we're shifting of some mindsets right now of typical past practice, and so I think it's also important that we understand that how we serve our English learners, there is a much smaller portion that is truly in need of bilingual language with regard to Spanish instruction for that population. But English learners are funded through a different application and funding source. That doesn't mean that we don't serve the kids, and I think that's the piece that's really, really important. But the training portion for the administrators and beyond, just like we're doing with a lot of the things in academic services, is going back to some of the foundational, are there some implicit biases that we're not overtly aware of, and how do we address them through the curriculum pieces and also in our planning for the strategic plan? And yes, there is a 90-day bilingual plan, so that's important for you to know.
Cool. I'd love to see it one day.
Okay.
Can we present it to the board?
It's in, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the Title III will be next for the ELs, for next
Yeah,
board
that's
meeting.
normally June, right?
Yeah.
I just don't want the fingers pointed downtown when it comes to, hey, why aren't we doing great? And then I don't want leadership in the district saying it's over here, or, you know, we want to be able to say, or, you know, I'd like to answer as a board member to say, we've done everything we can in that program, starting from the top down to give it. And then if we have issues in buildings, then we can handle those issues in the buildings, right? I mean, but take-home message is,
Well, and I appreciate that because it's not about it being a blame game.
Nope.
It's about shared responsibility.
Right.
And we all have skin in that game.
right.
So,
Thank you very much, and sorry for the long, drawn-out questions, but I appreciate your time.
Did you say something?
And you're welcome anytime to come to my
Okay.
office and I'll talk to you and show you what we're looking at or whatever.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Alright. Anything else? Then do I have a motion to approve? Have a second? Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards and a second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Next, we have our operating budget and salary schedules authorization.
and just for the record, Chad gets 15 minutes.
Good, because I've been
We've got a
an hour.
bet going. I'm going to make the 15 minutes.
There's a lot.
Thank you, Board President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, members of the board. Looks like we're ready to go here, so I'll go ahead and get, oh, that came out a little different. Okay. So this first slide is just some boilerplate language. Essentially, it comes from statute. We are required to go out to the community and in particular to solicit our parents to be involved in the budget committee and the development of the operating budget for the new fiscal year. Pardon me. There's our timeline. February 2nd or 22nd is when we kicked off this year. We started with current year estimated when we talk about estimated versus projected, so if you hear me say estimated, I'm talking about current year. If I'm saying projected, I'm projecting to the new fiscal year. Just heads up there. But you can see our timeline and what we've done. So essentially this whole time we've been putting the pieces of the budget together as we've gone through. And so how are school districts funded? Well, there's federal funds, Title I, IDEA B, Title III, there's Title IV, Title II. Those are all federal funds. Those funds are 2,400 through 25, or 24,000 through 25,000 series. Then there's state funds, which are 11,000. That's operational. 14,000. That's your instruction materials. 13,000 would be student transportation. Those are state funds, and those are through appropriation passed into law each year at the legislative session. Operational fund, it funds the day-to-day operations of a school district, the bulk of the operations. That SEG formula grant that we get from the state through appropriation each year accounts for about 95% of our total operating budget. So just some heads up there. Also, state funds can be capital outlay, such as matching funds for 2 mil. So our local 2 mil election that we had here, we just talked about briefly, we get matched for that from the state, but it's contingent upon the passing at the local level in the county. So that's great. School construction, GO bonds, those types of funds are capital outlay funds. Again, instructional materials, we talked about that's a state fund, as well as student transportation. Local funds can be ad valorem taxes, that's just a fancy word for property taxes, oil and gas taxes that come in through the region here in county. And they flow into the operational fund, the capital outlay funds, and the debt service fund. Debt service is used to pay off our bond debt. Bonds are used for school construction. Okay, so the appropriation for this year, or for this new fiscal year, is House Bill 2. That's the General Appropriations Act of 2019. I've got a reference there if you want to go look it up. it all but eliminates the instruction materials fund. That's really unusual. So there's some limitations on both instruction materials fund and student transportation fund. Of course, it can't be used for other things. Student transportation can only be used for student transportation costs. Likewise, instruction materials fund can only be used for instructional materials purchases, but it's been very traditional and very set in its ways for a very long time. Meaning you couldn't buy software, you couldn't buy these other curriculum materials that we're now using in the 21st century with instruction materials, or things off of the non-adopted list. So they've made a special appropriation of instruction materials this year, and when we compare the two from last year, we can see that it's quite a dramatic increase. But instruction materials funds are going to flow through the SEG formula this year. There's a little bit of concern with some of that, but the nice thing is those dollars can be used much more flexibly than, or I was going to say liberally, but flexible with those funds and how they can be used for our instructional materials to meet our needs. So that's kind of interesting. This House Bill 2 maintains above the line appropriation available for dual credit. So we're just staying the same with dual credit. But what's kind of interesting there is dual credit, for the first time that I've ever seen it, is being issued directly to the colleges. So both ENMU and ENMUR are getting direct appropriations of dual credit funding. Now they serve our students through dual credit. Typically that money has gone to the school district and then we pay for those books. There's some tough issues that come into play with procurement, with going out for bid, with bookstores, with all of these different things, and the timing of that and getting those textbooks and materials into our students' hands. So Dr. McElroy sent me to a conference this summer, more of a collaborative group. Many of the superintendents and college presidents from around the state, and the recommendation was give some of that money directly to the universities so they can utilize it and get those books in our kids' hands. And so they've done that, and it's very interesting. In the last couple of years, we would have seen a direct allocation of instruction materials funds of like $13,000, $14,000. So for the universities to get that much in instructional materials, that's a big deal, and that's a huge win for them, and I believe for us as well.
So, one question,
Yes, ma'am.
will the
Of course.
books be in the students' hands the first day of school?
That's
Is
the
that what
goal.
y'all were-
That's the goal. There's no reason why they shouldn't be. There's no reason. With the funds directly out at the college, and then a portion of the funds directly with the schools, and we've developed our process. I know Mr. Lujan has been working on that since last year, so I would say that I can't see why that wouldn't happen.
But if the dual enrollment, so their enrollment's going to grow now with dual enrollment, will those books be available? Will they know the count in order to get those ordered?
I think so. I think so, Ms. Kirk. I think part of the goal through the bid process early on is to find vendors that can be ordered online as well as through the bookstore, so we're not limited to just a bookstore. The problem is getting the textbooks, the availability of the textbooks themselves. Like, is it an author that works at the campus that wants his book sold, or whatever?
Well, but those course requests have already been made, so we know what students are taking what classes.
True.
So,
Even with dual credit?
yes.
But they haven't taken the AccuPlacer test yet.
Yeah, they do. For summer ones we have. When are they
Some
doing
have.
it?
Oh,
Some
summer ones,
have.
but not for
Yeah.
school year 2019-20. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, some
But
of
it
those
will
have
happen
and some
in
have
time.
not. There'll be more that come. So just a comparison of House Bill 2, last year, 18-19, to this year, 19-20, kind of gives us, alludes to what's going on in the minds of our legislators. You can see state equalization guarantee going up significantly, 17.3% last year, or to this year. Student transportation, I've got a line through charter schools. That was lined through. Evidently, one of our legislators had written in last year student transportation funds specific to charter schools. The governor at that time lined that through, so the money drops down into districts and charter schools together here. So that's what's going on there. You can see out-of-state tuition, emergency supplemental, federal flow through, instructional materials. Again, it's coming out of these above the line funds. It's going into another above the line fund, SEG, but it's coming out of its traditional funding source. Okay. And just some more kind of flavor to what's going on. These are the special appropriations to other education. These are the funds that typically go to PED, and then PED doles it out to the districts based on their criteria, whatever that is for each funding source. So you can see that these funds have gone down significantly. I think a lot of superintendents across the state would say that's a good thing. We'd rather see it directly in our above-the-line funding, SEG, and make those decisions locally. And I think a lot of boards would support that. So again, you can kind of see what the interest was by following the money. Okay. Some legislative changes. So House Bill 2, House Bill 5, Senate Bill 1 all kind of dovetail and overlap in certain areas and have significantly changed the way public education is funded in New Mexico for next year, 1920. They've changed the funding formula. They've added new minimum salary thresholds for the three-tiered licensure. They've tied three-tiered licensure to the funding formula and are replacing or phasing out T&E, as we'll see. They've taken K through 5. I'm going to back up one. See K3, and then they tacked on 4 and 5 last year at the end of the year when they had some excess funds. So that was other education special appropriations. Again, you'd have to go to PED hat in hand to get those funds. But now K through 5 is being funded directly through the formula. And it's got factors. So we've got K through 5 extended school year. That's 25 days extended school year, typically paid at a daily rate. Extended learning time is a different program, but it runs right alongside, kind of parallel to K through 5. And if you're participating in K through 5, then you're eligible for extended learning time. The two overlap. So you're getting these additional factors against your units, which would generate more units against more dollars within the SEG formula. So, at-risk index, this is, I'm going to throw out an opinion. I try to stay away from that, but really cool. So at-risk index is going up by 0.25 for districts throughout New Mexico. And the expectation from the PED, from the legislature, from the state, is that we are going to follow up with those dollars. Again, we were talking about equity versus equality and those types of things. That's an equity issue. Again, we've got at-risk populations out there, and we need to be doing things to raise their boats as well. As we go forward. So that's one of the things they're going to be watching for. We've got a new, what's called the program budget questionnaire, where they're going to evaluate the programs, not the budget, the programs that we spend the money on at the PED level. I don't know who's going to be doing that, but they're going to be looking at risk in a big way.
So how does, what's a designated at-risk student? Is that a Title I? Is that?
That's part of it. There are 3 components to at-risk. One is free and reduced lunches, I think homeless, mobility. There's something else.
Migrant, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right. Yes, our district has a lot that qualify it as at-risk. Yeah. At each school, at every school. Yeah. So, We think the benefit, again, of having instructional materials run through the formula is we can use those funds for materials and appropriate software and those types of things. But we think there's a little bit of a concern, and I'm speaking as a business manager and other business managers across the state, concern lumping in the traditionally separated funding sources for the delivery of SCG formula. So essentially we're taking those dollars for K through 5, we're taking those dollars for instructional material, and now we're dumping it into our formula. So are we still going to fund those programs as a state and do those things, or is that going to be absorbed by essentially legislative mandates for various things, whether it's raises or whatever? So there's more dollars in there, yes, but there's more programs that need to be monitored and followed through on, if that makes sense. So in talking to other business managers across the state, in the last 2 weeks, we've been calling each other on the weekends, at night, emailing back and forth, and so the salary schedules are the big deal, and everybody's sweating bullets because, you know, you read 6%. Well, when we start putting those things together, we're seeing 10 to 15 to 17, 18% increase just to meet the minimums based on the way this, and we'll get into that here in just a second, is flowing. And so a lot of, particularly your smaller school districts, are having a really tough time squeezing that into their budget. So at any rate, yeah. Another interesting thing, House Bill 5 changes include the 4-year phase out of SCG formula training and experience. The thing about training and experience, it's a multiplier within the formula, so small changes there can have a big impact on your total dollars and your total units. And it also accounted or indexed for both teachers and district licensed ancillary staff. So you had kind of a bigger pot or pool of folks that you were indexing their training and experience with. TCI is now phasing in over 4 years at 25% per year, as T&E phases out at 25% per year. The difference with TCI is it only gives you indexing power and multiplying power based on licensed teachers, no ancillary. So you're losing quite a few staff. And you can see, I put in the factor weights because they're different now. With TCI, they are going to be different. And we need to look at our salary schedules differently on those steps and those levels versus what we're doing and have been for many, many years with T&E. So that kind of gives us a flavor of that and what we need to be watching for as we build our salary schedules and work with our union groups. And we had a very good discussion, very productive discussion about that today. Okay, the illustrated teacher increase. So this is kind of funky, and everybody's been really confused since we left the spring budget workshop. Now, you would think at the spring budget workshop, that's where you find this stuff out and you come home with clarity and you're ready to rock and roll. Or at least that's what I'd like to see. Would love to see some more information at the spring budget workshop and some more clarity. When we came home, everybody was in a panic because we didn't know how to apply this thing. You read the language of the statute and it says, okay, it's a 6% raise, and then you've got to apply the minimums on the 3-tier. It doesn't say anything about you can't use the 6% to get to the minimum or any of those types of things. So we had to get emails afterwards and everybody was confused and all that stuff. So I think we finally got clarity because now we have documents we have to sign that yes, we did it this way. And this is the way that we've done it. You first have to apply the 6% to the current year's payroll. So that teacher is making, where's our example? $37,500. Level 1 teacher at step 0 making $37,500 in the current year times 6%, $2,250. So there's the first piece or component. And then we have to meet the new minimum on the level 1 salary schedule. So the new minimum is $41,000. Your 0 step must be $41,000 or more. So now you have to take that minimum, 41,000, plus that $2,250. And so that's more than a 6% increase. So that's your 10% to 18%.
Out of our current operating budget.
Just to meet the minimums. Again,
Not deducting the 6% that we're getting for the minimum? We gotta-
yeah, the 6%'s in addition to. Yeah, it's got to be in addition to. And it's one of the things that our superintendent has to sign off on is that we did it this way. And oh, by the way, PED, we're going to be checking for it. And it says it in that language. We're looking for that. And I'm sorry these slides didn't come out. It's strange that they came out with the black drop. But you can see the minimums.
Yeah, it's going to raise the radar.
It's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive, but I think it's long overdue.
Yes.
Yeah. So as long as we can maintain it, I'm a happy camper. Now, if they start hedging back and start doing squirrely things like dumping other funds into your SEG, and you still got to do the program piece over here, but you can't afford it because it went into the raise, that's a problem. We've got to watch for that. We've got to talk about that kind of stuff when it happens, when we see it. So anyway, there's the minimums, 19, 20, 41, 50, and 60. And you can see compared to last year, that's quite a jump in the minimums. Okay. So we need to consider how that increase is going to be affected by the TCI as we go forward. And again, you can see the weights here. You can see these percentages. The slide didn't look like this in the.
Well, our book, it's in our book.
But you can see the percentages there. So the percentage of 6% is misleading, and we need our staff to understand that when they get these raises, they're going to be more than 6% in most cases. Not all, but most. And everybody will get at least 6%. So when looking at the teachers, we're looking at an average of 10%, and looking at everybody else, right at about 6, maybe 6.3. The administrators had some minimums too that we had to meet, and that pushed them up a little bit. Principals, assistant principals. Okay. Okay. Primary factors, again, state unit value. That's the primary factor. That tells you how we're doing as a state. It really does. When that unit value goes down, we're not doing too good. And there's an initial unit value versus a final unit value. Initial unit value is what we're using right now to build our budget. Final unit value is going to come after Christmas in the third quarter, after we've spent through 3 quarters of the year, and all of a sudden have to adjust if there's a decrease or revenues go down or projections were off or whatever the case may be. So we just need to be thinking about those things. State unit value trend, you can see what it's been doing. This is initial unit value. Now, let's look at the change in unit value between initial and final. You can see those years where it stayed completely flat or really dropped through the floor. Last time this happened, what were we talking about? Cash clawbacks. We're going to take your cash. Yeah. We're going to take your cash and we're going to hide our cash.
$30 oil.
Yeah. And you can see the district membership trend. We're right at, and again, this is the 120th and 80th day average. Those two combined is what we build our initial budgets on. I think 10,066, no, that's 40th day. 10,076.5. But I mean, we're back in 2008, 2009, when the financial collapse and all that stuff was going on, we got the double hit. We lost membership and we lost money. It was terrible. It was terrible.
That's nice on this past year. I mean, you're seeing throughout the year, it's pretty steady.
It's very steady.
Does that trigger anything for you versus some others, kind of jumpy? But
you know,
is that a good thing?
when I'm talking to the other folks from around other districts, like Hobbs, for example, so when there's a boom bust,
Right.
the vacuum, that is difficult to manage. For Roswell, we're good for about on average 1% growth per year over a 10-year stretch. When you take it over 10 years, it averages to about 1% growth per year. Now, some years we don't quite make 1%, we don't get the extra money, but you know, it's right in that range. So we're very steady. That's very manageable, particularly when you're doing school construction, and you're not. It's not back and forth, back and forth. I think I'm going to go over my time if I don't pick up the pace.
You already are.
Okay, sorry.
You're at 25 minutes.
Okay, I'll shut this thing down.
It's okay, Chad, because I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions
Okay.
anyway, so we're.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, just looking at the revenue, again, estimated current year 18-19, projected what we're projecting for next year based on the SEG. That's quite a hike in SEG, 16.76% at the district level. That's huge, and we'll take it. We're going to need it. Unrestricted cash balance, restricted cash balance. You know, everybody laughs at me when I say, okay, there's our cash balance. They always say, come on, man. Who do you think you are? We know that's not the cash balance. Mm-hmm. That is the cash balance. That's how we calculate it. I'm going to walk you through that here in just a second. But yeah, so bottom line, we're getting quite a jump, $14.6 million. $14.6 million. Just in SEG. But now remember, we're not getting those instructional materials funds separately.
Yeah.
We've got to pay for instructional materials. How much does a textbook cost? About $100? How many students we got? Full adoption, district-wide adoption, 10,000 students? There's $1 million right there.
Think we're going to be okay with that 16.7 SEG for the long term, or let's play
the
scenario.
question.
Election years come up, and here we go.
Yeah.
If we have a $30 barrel of oil again, are they going to be able to? What are we going to do?
So they put money.
Yeah,
They
I know,
put
same
money
as
into the general fund as a backup to this, but they've got to keep doing that. So now that's what you've got to watch. Are they doing that year over year, or is that just a one-trick pony where they did it one year and then didn't do it the next?
Are they tied to the 16% to where they can't vary it that much in case we do have a crisis, or can they drop it to what it was before or less?
I think they can do.
If they need
They,
to.
they write the laws. I'll put it
I
that
just
way.
didn't know if there was, you can only go a certain range up and down.
I don't
so,
think there's
you
a
know, we're trying to
constitutional
keep the lights
limit on them. I
Okay.
don't think there is on that particular area, but I could be wrong.
So
I'll
we'll
look
hope the
into it.
16 sticks around for a while, we're going to be all right.
Yeah. But any questions on revenue? I mean, that's pretty well. Interest income, gosh, I love seeing that interest income. For years and years, we were getting like $13,000, $10,000. Now we're getting the same rate the bankers get. It's awesome. Okay, projected revenues. Let's talk about the projected revenues, then we'll get into the expenses and get us out of here. Let's talk about that cash balance. This is coming directly from the audit. So the audit's on our website. If you go out to departments, finance and operations, go down to the bottom, click on audit. That's going to have our most current year audit. Go to page 130, I believe, either 128 or 130. You're going to see the balance sheet. Look at the assets, cash and cash equivalents. This is straight from PED's formula that they make us use. So we can't deviate from it when we're putting these budgets together. Cash and cash equivalents, $12.1 million. Investments, not a whole lot of money out there. We've got some in the governmental investment. We don't like to put a whole lot in them because of years past what we've seen. So less accrued payroll, we have to take that off at year end. That's part of the audit, $4.7 million. Outstanding loans to other funds, those are your federal funds that are reimbursable, that are waiting on reimbursement, 6.4. 96 or 965,812, yeah. And less restricted cash of 59,542 is the 906. So, yeah. So that's your true cash balance, and that's how you get to it. If anybody asks you, it's a true number. It is, and it's verified by the state on several levels. So. If you don't have a question about how these revenues are projected, I mean, you've got the information there in front of you. I'm just going to keep wheeling because here's what we want to see. We want to see the 18-19 estimated operational fund expenditures. So estimated, we're talking about current year, $74.2 million. And you can see the percentages by function: instruction, athletics, student support, libraries, all those things. And you can also see it by object: salaries, benefits, professional development, plant services, supplies, capital outlay, so on and so forth. And then we've got it broken out. So you can see that instructional, direct instruction, student support, and instructional support, 65 or 75% of our total budget go to those instructional support and direct instruction components, which is huge. And again, you can see the salaries and benefits. What was that, 64 and 24? 88% of our budget is tied up in salaries and benefits. Okay. Now let's look at projected next year. All those additional dollars, remember all that 14 million extra? This ties back to that spreadsheet where we were looking at that revenue. Revenue and expenditures must tie. So you can see what's going on and how it's going on and how we've budgeted. Again, we try and keep 75% in those three categories, and we try and stick to that throughout the year. It's important that we drive those dollars directly to the classrooms, directly to our students' benefit, directly to our community's benefit in that way. So. Some of our recurring costs increases, and this is just a short list, but there's many more. There's utilities, they're going up about 6%, depending on which one you're looking at, all those other things. But you can see here, 6% across the board is actually more like an average 10% on teachers, so that's 6.1 million. Licensure level movement, people going from level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3, that's about a $8,000 to $10,000 pop, depending on how far the jump is every year. So 15 of those folks, almost 150,000. 5.9% increase on health insurance premium. That the district cost, not the employee, the district. It's a little more than $500,000 there. I should also point out, because this comes up every time insurance goes up. Insurance is going up 5%, and I'm only getting a 2% raise. They are apples to oranges, my friends. We're talking 2% on your annual salary versus 5% on your annual benefit cost. It's hundreds of dollars compared to thousands of dollars. So we can get into the specifics. We can do examples if we need to, but just if you're talking to people, know that, because they don't always understand it. New Mexico ERB, Educational Retirement Board, is going up 1%, so that's almost $1 million. New Mexico Retiree Healthcare, going up 0.5% or $320,000. Again, these are district costs. I'm just looking at the additional cost to the district.
And I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Vacancies, we do have to budget our vacant positions. And so, I mean, this number has been fluctuating, you know, as we've been watching it for the last couple of years. I put it at 29. Mr. Bird did a great job in getting me lots of budget information and information that I need to project budget, and I appreciate that greatly. And you can just kind of see, so that gets us to almost 10 million. We know that the increase is 14 million. Again, I didn't talk about utilities costs and other costs. This budget is incredibly tight. There's not a whole lot of money to throw around. I wouldn't tell you that if it weren't true. Again, I would encourage you to talk to other superintendents and business managers across the state and in other districts, because it is true. So here are the other funds that are out there that we have budgeted and submitted that are part of your packet. All those line item accounts. These are the awards, the planning award amounts that are available at this point. So we've gone ahead and put budgets together and submitted those last night. And so what's nice about that is on July 1st, we're ready to rock and roll. We're ready with payroll. We're ready to start procurement. We're ready to start purchase orders. We're ready to start going. with all of those budgets, and that is the bulk of our budget. So we'll have operational and almost another $10 million in federal and state local grants ready to go. And so conclusions, again, we're at 75%. That's great. Oil and gas, we need to watch it. The regulatory conditions in New Mexico are well known. Potential decreases in initial versus final SEG unit value are always a threat for school districts. The way you overcome that threat, the way you maintain local control as a school board is by having a sufficient cash balance to get you through those tough times. And that is, again, a local control issue. And if it comes up again, I hope you'll tell people that. That's a local control issue. You're trying to take away my local control of my school district. So, but at any rate, we need to watch oil and natural gas as a state and encourage, be positive and encourage, I think. Any questions?
Not for me.
Thank you.
So I want to comment on your presentation and your notebook. I really appreciate all the time and effort that went into this and making it so user-friendly and bringing it to our level so we understand. And I can tell that it was a late night last night. Did you pull an all-nighter, Mr. Chad Cole?
The last couple of weeks have been some all-nighters and all weekenders, but it's part of the gig and part of this time of year, and I'm always glad when this time of year is over. Once we get to graduation.
July 1st,
graduation's a big drop-off, but then we get ready for audit and new school year and roll forward and all those other things, but thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for your presentation.
I got a question for you, Chad. And you can sit down if you want to. You don't have to stand. You've been presenting for too long, and thank you for the great presentation, Chad. That's awesome. Love when you do this stuff.
Thank you.
Guys like me understand it when you're done.
Same here.
So, one question, Chad, when it comes to salary schedules, and I know this is going to be the hot topic.
Yes, sir.
We brought in the steps, which is great. Because what we're trying to do is retain quality teachers, retain quality administrators to where every year, we're getting a little bump. In reviewing this, I know we're taking that big jump, to, 40, 50, 60 now versus where we were before. So I get it. That's a tough pill to swallow.
It's a great way to bring in people, though.
Well, it is. It is.
To the profession.
It is. It is. Where I'm concerned, again, is I think last year we did great. When we brought up the salary schedule, brought up the steps, we're competing with some bigger districts. We were putting positions out there. Administrators were we had tons of applicants out of the city, which was awesome. So I think it was working. But now that the whole state's bumping up, right? Now we're going to have to start competing with the norm. And we're going to, which is good.
As a state, we're going to.
As a state, we're going to.
Yeah.
Looking at the teacher salary again, when we look at the steps, remember years ago when it was you got $1 raise a year, and that was a tough pill to swallow to keep your teachers going, and hey, that whole dollar. What I'm seeing on the salary schedule now is we're kind of getting back to that. We have the steps, and I get it. We have 1,500 plus employees, and it's not the same as your smaller cadre of administrators and stuff like that.
25 different salary schedules.
Yes. And a lot more people, so it's a lot more money.
A lot more people.
What can we do? And let me go back a little bit too, because I kind of talked to Ellen about this. I don't know, is this set in stone or is this the minimum? Reason I'm asking is because when we get to that step, I was looking at it, and a lot of the times it was $10 more a year. And that's where, when we're talking about, hey, our insurance benefits are going up 5%, that's where they're actually going to see the next year a drop in pay. Because
Understood.
that $50 isn't going to handle, it went up, 76.
Right.
What can we do there? So I look at the administrator's salary schedule, and that's good. I see, again, it's a smaller cadre. But when I look at that, we see steps, and it's thousands of dollars sometimes. And I get it, it's only to step 10, I understand this. How do we get the equity so there's no animosity amongst our administrators? Because, last year, we had the substantial increase in administrators, and I get it, it wasn't, hey, it was, administrators versus teachers. It was Dr. McElroy had a great vision of we had to fix the system, right?
I wanted to
It
bring
was
in
broke for a long time, and we
high-quality
needed leaders
talent.
to come up and actually want to pursue those positions. I get it. We fixed it. It's great. How do we get that equity? How can we, amongst that step, level 1 teacher, 2 or 3, being at X salary, $52,000, and if you work 30-something years, you make $52,000, $700 more.
Sure.
For 30-something years. How do we fix that? And I get it. It's not, oh yeah, Ruben, yeah, we'll just give them 6% across each step.
So that is part of collective bargaining.
Right, and I know we're there.
And we're in the middle of that right now, and it's, I've worked very closely with our union representatives and made my priorities very clear that the $1 per step is not
$10,
okay.
yeah.
And so working very diligently on that. The other thing I've asked them to really prioritize is our level 3. And that's primarily because we need to strongly encourage people to move to that level 3 licensure level.
Right.
Because that's where the TCI indexing is going to come in. And if we can leverage that early, we will be in a much better position than we have been in the past. The other thing is we're not the only district that's going to be doing that. So in order for us to continue to be competitive and get that money from the state through the TCI, which used to be T&E, is we're going to have to really make that a priority within our district. So that's one of the things that both of the bargaining teams are taking to the table, and they're working together collaboratively to figure that out. And so, we recognize the same frustrations. I mean, it's, oh yay, I got it $10. Woohoo! That's less than a dollar a month. But so we completely get that, and so it is something that we've been in discussions with both the union representatives and our local our team, and so it is a priority, and something that is being currently addressed through the collective bargaining.
And there is a story behind it. There is a reason for it. There's a how did it get there? So you had many funding years where the funds were not there. There were no funded raises, but you're still trying to meet your T&E at that point, and now we're moving to TCI, which is the same concept, and we're still going to want to move people down to the next step. So what does that step have to look like if you don't have any funding to give a raise? $1. And that's how your steps grow, and that's how you get these 30-year schedules with $1 step. But that's the genesis of it. But Dr. McElroy is absolutely right. And the other piece, we talked about equity between administration and teachers. So by uplifting those teachers to get them to level 3, well, what does that level 3 licensure?
Or become an administrator too.
Become an administrator.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's, it's just, it stands out, right? And when we look at, associates and stuff like that too, we all know they're worth more than what's on the salary schedule. But when you look like an associate too, there's a substantial, they're going to want to probably stick around in the district for a while and or become a teacher.
Which we have a phenomenal career ladder opportunity that pays for their bachelor's degree.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
And that's amazing.
But
so
one thing too, Mr. Sanchez said, I don't think that's not written here on the paper, is the retirement and the health insurance. The retirement is above and beyond. When you get to that point that you hit your retirement, your salary may be smaller within your 25, 31 years, however long you stay. But once you reach that and you do reach retirement, it's there for life. Yes. You don't have to worry about it going away.
We could do a lot better job selling our...
We do need to sell that. Yes. Because I can tell you, when I talk to others, even my sister is a nursing instructor, and we had this conversation. She said, what? You get it for life? No way. Yes, way. This is
it's an amazing benefit.
It is, the amazing benefits. Yeah. So my question is, when I look at the salary schedule, based on teachers, and do we actually have someone in the district with 37, 36, 34 years of experience that would draw that?
We could, but one of the things that's in discussion is to compact our schedule to
yeah.
like 30 years.
Wouldn't that be, yeah, that would make
But
sense to me.
again, that's all part of the
Collective bargaining.
negotiation process. And so
Okay.
this is a first draft,
Okay.
but note that based on the negotiations that will occur both with REA and CWA, these could change. They're subject to change as a result of bargaining. So,
To get it ratified.
but this gets us in the door with PED
Good.
and with our budget submission.
Good, okay.
Chad, in a
Thank
crystal
you.
ball scenario to where we have good negotiations and, you know, we can increase those steps, you know, that'd be great, to where at least those steps are substantial enough to where it's gonna cover the insurance premium and they're gonna get, you know, actually pocket a little bit of money every year. Because of SEG and because of our cash carryover and stuff like that, do you foresee it being possible, or do we run risks of increasing those? Or do we look at the big picture and try and maybe trim some fat where maybe we can pull some down to, you know, help out our
Those steps.
to where we can put a little more meat on the bone for those teachers and those people
Let me
that are
just
working.
kind of walk you through it. So Dr. McElroy is absolutely right. It's a process and it's a team process. It's not a one individual process. It's not a PED
It's not Roswell
process.
School
It's a
District.
group process with our unions. But the main thing that I would just tell you when it comes to that is you have to look at where your actual FTE, your full-time equivalent people, those are real people.
Right.
Where are they on that salary schedule in those cells? Because if you've got one out there at 36 or 37, you darn sure don't want to cut them back. Because again, those are real people, real lives, real plans.
And that's what
that
we
have
did
been
last year,
made.
right? When you brought that up, I mean, we actually
We
had the
have to.
FTE based on where they were at.
But
So we
just
had it right
know
to the
that
dollar.
no matter what, we always need to look first at where those FTE lie within whatever salary schedule we're looking at. And as long as we do that, we're going to make good decisions. And fortunately, again, I won't elaborate on the negotiations. I'll just tell you that they're going well, and we're all very keenly aware of that particular thing.
Good.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for letting me get on my soapbox, but I think you know where I stand, at least in the deal, is, you know,
take care of our people.
Let's not go back to where, you know, we're just giving a few dollars a year. Let's get it to where it actually means something. Our teachers feel valued.
Sure.
If increases go up with insurance premiums, whatever, we're still okay, and we're not losing people based on competing with other districts, because, you know, we're just gonna have to get back there, but.
Well, and I think all our teachers are going to win because we have a very collaborative relationship with our union. And we work very hard to keep it that way. And because everybody wins that way. And that's what we want. We want everybody to win.
Good.
And so.
And thank you
Anyway,
guys for allowing me to speak for 15 minutes, 20, 30, what was it?
Well, I didn't put the
But
timer on.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, Chad, for explaining
I'm
all that.
chiming in.
Great
Yeah, thank you,
presentation
Chad.
again, I appreciate you doing that for
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
It's really cool. All right.
So I would recommend approval of the 1920 operating budget and salary schedules authorization.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Everybody.
All of us.
All right, so I'll
Choose.
have a motion made by Mr. Edwards, second made by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have the SGMS operating budget authorization.
Sydney Gutierrez.
You're on, Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
I'm sorry.
Maria.
Is it still Tuesday?
I was hoping for
I'm
Friday.
going to tell you, this is our longest board meeting today.
Yeah, see, maybe I
Yeah.
should stay
Just
away,
saying.
and they go quicker.
May is
Get on the phone next time.
Maria
Sorry,
Hernandez.
You're not.
You look
Mr.
familiar.
President.
Hi, my name's Maria Hernandez. I'm Sydney Gutierrez, business manager. Presenting the budget on a smaller scale for Chad's. Sydney is an authorized Roswell Independent School District charter. Attendance is compromised of 66 students, grades 6th through 8th grade. Student enrollment is selected by the lottery method. It was held in April. Sydney manages and controls the school's revenues, expenditures, and cash balance. Sydney has its own governing council, which sets its own school policies, internal policies, and corresponds with New Mexico statutes. Roswell Independent School District receives 2% of the charter's annual SEG revenue in order to cover administrative costs handling the school's revenue receipts and banking. With this year's, that would be $14,234.40. Sydney is invoiced $10,000 annually for the opportunity to access ISD's current bids, financial information, accounting, and other district offered services. This year, Sydney, amongst all the factors, we've totaled 155.894 program units with a membership of 66 students. That's equaling $697,485.63 in SEG funds. The projected salaries and benefits are $565,469 for fiscal year 1920, which makes up 81% of the initial SEG for next year. This is just the projected breakdown of including the initial SEG and the projected cash carryover. Sydney's budget is $936,194 for next year. You can see the salaries and benefits. In here with this, the benefits, salaries and benefits equals 60.4% of the budget. There's just a smaller picture, just combining everything, salaries and benefits, insurance costs, accounting fees, the program costs, and then the percentages of the final operating budget. And that's just a pie chart of everything, showing it as it goes. Along with the operational fund and the other smaller funds that Sydney has, the total projected budget for next year is $997,867. The operational fund is 93.82% of the total budget compared to everything else. We'll be submitting our budget on Friday, May 17th, and was approved yesterday by the Board Governing Council.
May I throw something out there?
Yes.
So this is Maria's first budget presentation to this board, and I think she did fabulous. I just want to brag on her. I really would love to brag on my entire staff. Maria is one of the hardest working people I know, and matter of fact, the only person I know that works harder than Maria is Linda. And Linda's been doing the charter schools budget for years. So you look at the scale of a 10,000 student district compared to a 66 student cap district that pulls an A or has been pulling an A since they've been grading those types of things. So it's, but just again, Maria has done remarkably well with their budget, with their governing council, with her federal grants that she accounts for. She started in our office as an accounts payable clerk without a degree several years ago. She went and got her bachelor's degree and was working and raising her family while working for us. And we just think she's fantastic, and she's done a great job, and really appreciate her.
Yes.
Any questions?
Any questions?
I have some comments, and hey, I don't have any questions. I'm just gonna praise these guys. So, just want to say thank you for everything that you guys do too. I mean, Sydney is amazing, and I think I'm correct here. Hopefully, I'm not, but I think is it still the only charter school within the state to maintain an A since its existence, or what was it? Or there's two now? Oh, okay, one of two. Okay. But when you look at charter schools and you see all the stuff on the news, and you look at charter schools across the state and the problems they're facing, and you see Sydney and what you guys are doing there and maintaining that A, I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, it's amazing. Also have to say too, I'm very proud to say my son got lucky and his name was drawn out of the hat this year. So he'll be attending Sydney. And one thing that I do appreciate is you guys, I don't know what it was actually called. It was the open house, I guess you guys had a couple weeks ago. What was the terminology for it? Where the students came in, parents came in, roasted some hot dogs on the fire. They all got to get to know each other. I mean, it's little things like that that make that school special. I mean, my son was kind of worried, and he's like, I don't know about Sydney. This is new, and he was thinking about Mountain View, and he came in, and after that, he's very excited to start school. I mean, this is going to be great, Dad, and I got some friends, and saw got to meet some of the teachers, and got to see the environment he was in. So I think it's little things like that that make you guys special, why you maintain that A. It's because you go above and beyond. So thank you guys for everything you're doing, and thank you for a great presentation, and look forward to it. You guys are doing great. I just can't give you guys enough praise. It's awesome what you guys do there.
Mr. President, Dr. McRoy, members of the board, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Cole, this young lady for having put up with me, that one who put up with me, and
For
probably
many
suffered
years.
greatly for all those years. When you look at what we do it in collaboration with the district. We're unique for a lot of reasons in what we do academically and other things, but it's the collaboration that supports us in being able to determine what's needed for students, and then being allowed to give it to those students when we have the expertise in other services, whether it be transportation, whether it be finances, special ed, all of that. We integrate well, extremely well with the district, and those are the things that make us successful. And so you guys get partial credit, you really do, because we don't see that a lot in the charter movement, where districts are that amenable to the needs of
Especially
schools.
Independently chartered, yeah.
That's correct. So, and Maria's great, they're all great, you're all great. I mean, we're successful in part because of the services that you provide us, the expertise that you allow us to share and to benefit from. So I did want to say that. So thank you.
Well, and also the leadership. We pat you on the back too.
Right.
So I have one question, Maria. Are you local? Are you homegrown? Yeah. Where did you go to middle school?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
So I recommend approval of the 2019-2020 perfect vision, Sidney Gutierrez Middle School operating budget authorization.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards, a second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion carries. We have a per pupil expenditure policy and procedure.
Board President Getty, Dr. McElroy, members of the board, you have before you tonight is a proposal for a new board policy. This is a first reading. So what has happened is with ESSA, or Every Student Succeeds Act at the federal level, has changed some of the reporting requirements for states that'll be receiving some of those federal grant awards. So part of that is ESSA requires and wants to see state, local, and federal funds on a per pupil basis, expenditure basis. Again, back to that equity point, and again back to those at-risk populations and where those are located, and what is the per pupil expenditure made on their behalf. So the federal level wants to see that through ESSA on the state's school district report cards. Those come out in December, so there's some new reporting requirements that'll take place next December. It'll actually start this summer in July when we do our final reports. So we're going to close the school year in June. June 30th is the end of the fiscal year. July is the first new month of the new fiscal year. In July, we've got to submit what are called final reports. Part of those final reports are going to involve a new report called the Per Pupil Expenditure Report. We've got to take federal, state, and local funds, and we've got to show those by school on a per pupil basis. Here's the problem. Here's the catch. Some of your costs are centralized costs. For example, utility costs may not be broken out by school, by student. So you've got to have a methodology or a policy with a methodology in place on how you're going to allocate those expenditures, those centralized expenditures that are not shown in the account structure down to the school site level. So the proposal is, let's keep it simple. Let's just allocate those based on the number of students, divided across the number of students per building. And so that's our proposed methodology. By having that methodology in policy in place before we close the fiscal year, again, this would be first reading. We'd bring it back to you in June for a second reading before we close the fiscal year. We'd avoid a financial audit finding, actually not a financial audit finding, part of the financial audit, but a non-financial audit finding for other matters by having that policy in place. And if I could answer any questions.
So I have a question, Mr. Cole.
Yes, ma'am.
So working through NASBO, have y'all worked with the State School Board Association to make sure that Don Williams is aware of this policy and
yes, ma'am.
And what we're looking at? So it's going to be throughout the 79 other districts.
We have,
that have this,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That subscribe to the board policy.
Yes, ma'am. Great point. So this started back with NASBO. There were some changes in the laws. They kind of backed away from it. This started at NASBO with PED 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Some changes to the laws at the federal level had them back away from it. They brought it back to NASBO again this year and wanted to make sure that the information was put out there for the districts. Not every district budgets their funds or generates their purchases and POs at the site level, at the school site level. They actually, a lot of them roll that up into what's called a rolled up. It's just a generic form. So they don't know which site got what. So they communicated that at NASBO this year, but the additional reporting requirements and having this methodology and policy, we have communicated to Don Williams, and he is in agreement with us. And I just, kind of mentioned in the email, hey, you might want to kind of alert the other districts that you're dealing with. Specifically, they contract with other districts, and kind of give them a heads up. So he is doing that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yep.
So did this language come from him?
This language actually came from the non-regulatory guidance for per pupil expenditures of the Public Education Department. I sent this to Don. Don reviewed it. I've reviewed it. And Don and I both agreed on the language.
So is this a first reading?
It's a first reading.
First reading.
Okay. So we don't really even have to have a motion?
No.
No.
Okay. All right then.
Bus contractor.
Bus contractor evaluations.
So, Mr. Tweet, are you gonna address this, or?
President Getty, Dr. McElroy, members of the board. So with the bus contractor evaluations, I reached out to the schools, which is not something I've historically done the past couple of years. I was able to get in touch with 19 of the schools. I count UHS and early college as one school. Spoke with 17 principals and spoke with 2 assistant principals. And with that, you know, I didn't really have a survey of questions I sent out. I just asked for general feedback. And the majority of the responses we got were really positive, supportive that the bus contractors work with the schools. And the number of incidents we've had in the past couple of years in terms of customer complaints and disciplinary issues have gone down. So we feel that everyone has been happy with the service that the bus contractors have provided this year. And so I've got those evaluations for you, and we look forward to working with them next year as well. So any questions?
You know, I appreciate your additional comments. Some of the concerns, I can tell they came from principals, and I appreciate you putting those additional comments in there, and I did read over them.
Is this just for Hamill?
No, there's, the first one is Hamble, and then Pollard is right after.
Oh, it's, okay, I see. There's a whole bunch, okay.
But when you look at one, you pretty much see the other day.
Okay.
They mirror each other.
Okay.
So I would recommend approval of the bus contractor evaluations.
Any other discussion? All right, then do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez, a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Okay, next, we have RFP Ancillary Services, 1912.
So I do recommend approval of RFP 19-12 ancillary services. So this is for diagnosticians, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, CODAs, physical therapy, all of our ancillaries, so.
Yeah, there's a lot. Okay. Any discussion?
I have a question about, I guess, so the RFP ranks, so there was a evaluation that went out to rank them, is this what I'm reading? And each of the groups and each of the service occupation.
Yeah, President Getty, Dr. McElroy, members of the board. So we did have an evaluation committee review all of these 8 different position skills separately. Depending on the type of therapist or provider that we're looking for, we had different vendors apply. And it's really hard to fill these positions in the state. So the one thing that we wanted to make sure we gave to special services was a good group of offers to choose from in case things get a little, the position gets a little slim and they find that they need to call us and get some on-site help into the district.
Some supplemental help. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. And some of them had scores that were, they didn't have a tab 1, 2, or 3, and they had a tab 4, so it was like, okay.
So the one good thing about this, although you do see a range of scores, is not all of the offerers submitted resumes to go along with their proposals, resumes of people that they have that they're looking to put out there into the field. But we were comfortable in being able to look at the companies themselves and what they've been able to do at some other school districts and places.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, then do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Sanchez, second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have RFP 19-13 Mesa Middle School Design.
So I do recommend approval of RFP 19-13 Mesa Middle School Design. And Mr. Tweet can talk about the procurement process on this one. Also, Mr. CPO.
President Getty, Dr. Malcolm, members of the board. So we're very fortunate to receive 16 proposals for this. It was, we ended up shortlisting, and we actually ended up interviewing 6 different offers for this. And just as we were going through the review process and then with the interview process, it pretty much solidified in all of the committee members' minds who we felt the right firm for the project was, or is.
So can you tell us where Hewitt Zoller Inc. is from?
Albuquerque. So I would say that 99% of those offers from Albuquerque. We didn't get any outside of New Mexico firms. They were all New Mexico, but they were from Albuquerque.
How many local?
Local, I don't believe we had any local.
There were none local, and Hewlett Zollers is the same design firm that designed Parkview.
Oh, okay.
High quality, very good process.
Yes.
Work well with our staff.
Nice.
You don't like it?
Hey, it'll look like Parkview. That'd be cool. Just kidding.
They're great to work with, I promise you that.
Be the coolest junior high in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then NCA Architects, that's all part of the deal, and Hartman and
Majewski.
yeah. Okay.
Anything else? All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards, a second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have RFP 19-15 Wool Bowl Track and Field Replacement.
Yes, Mr. Tweet has been busy with his CPO responsibilities this spring. So I do recommend that we accept RFP 19-15 Wool Bowl Track and Field Replacement.
We're replacing the track and the
The
turf. Okay.
The turf
It's
is
awful.
over
Yeah,
10
it
years,
is.
I think it's a little over 10 years
Yeah,
old.
11 years old.
It's completely degraded. It's not safe.
It's got punctures in it,
It's
holes.
got to,
People
it's
drove
got to
on
be
it.
replaced.
So how about the track? Do we know what we're going to replace it with?
What they're going to replace it with? The what?
Same material, right?
Yeah, the same materials, but
Yeah.
it just needs to be a new track. And they usually do that about at the same time they do turf. It's just a convenient way to get it all done at once.
How long has it been since we've redone the track?
I'm not sure on the track. I'm pretty sure it's 11 to 12 years on the turf of the field, and probably pretty close. The track and the turf were
Moreover.
probably done at the same time. And the problem with the track, it's the same thing you see in tennis courts and that kind of thing. You see the cracks.
Cracks.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. It just, it
Well,
doesn't.
hopefully they've come up with a new process.
You come up with any
It-
cooler designs than what we have
Cooler,
right now?
yeah, that makes them run faster, jump higher.
But only Roswell kids, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, only.
Can we get some blue and red in there this time? I mean,
that
did
would
they
be
come up
kinda
with a different design type deal, or it's the same
For
RASD?
So-
no, it is not RASD.
It's,
I think
So-
we're working directly with athletics.
So
okay.
what we've looked at,
Can we make it cool, coach?
we're gonna try to
Working
make,
on that.
yeah.
Okay.
So there will be some blue and be some red
Good.
implemented into the field.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're very excited about the design that's come out.
Will we get to see it? The
No.
design?
Thanks.
It doesn't come before the board.
Rocket on one end, coyote on the other. Yeah, you know, come on, let's.
Well,
We
one
gotta
of the-
compete
well,
with
One of
Lovington.
the things we've talked about is putting a big medallion in the middle of the field so that if it's Goddard playing, it's their design, and if it's Roswell High playing, it's their design.
Oh,
But the
yeah.
other thing is NIMI's also gonna be playing on that field this next year.
Oh.
And they're gonna pony up for their own, if we can do that, but we've got to see maintenance-wise if that's even possible. So,
Okay.
All right.
but after we
I see,
do the
that's cool.
RFP and that's when we get into the design phase with the turf people.
Well, don't our middle schools even compete on? I thought they had
Not their-
their final, or the, whatever it is.
But they'll like being at the high school field.
Yeah, they'll either be a Rocket or a Coyote anyway.
So they have to make a choice, huh?
Yeah.
That's right. Anything else? All right, then do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk, a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Okay, we have some reports. Dr. McElroy.
So I'm gonna kind of jet through these. Just had 2 great learning opportunities last week. Went with Ms. Lawson, Ms. Bruns, and Ms. Hillman to a National Special Education Law Conference for 3 days last week. It was amazing. Really, it tied in so incredibly well with the school board, National School Board Conference. Really went to a lot of informational presentations regarding equity and social emotional learning and how those things are so closely tied together. Then followed up and went to a superintendent symposium where I got to meet with superintendents from across the United States, but Canada as well. And their big focus again then was equity and social emotional learning. It was like tied up in a nice little bow, everything. And so what was really exciting for me is great ideas to bring back and to move forward and add on to, but also great networking contacts, because one of the things that especially the superintendent symposium taught me is that the work we're wanting to do here to create an equitable environment is possible, and we have people that have led the way. And so finding those networking opportunities, opportunities to bring people in that have lived it, bring people in that can train the board how to examine policy for implicit and explicit biases, that can train our that can train at every level, so that we truly begin to change the mindset of how we go about educating children in Roswell. And so was just pretty fired up about all of that, and got some great book recommendations. I've already downloaded one on Audible, so I got to start listening to it. But just amazing work, pioneers that people have done. And the really most amazing thing is the districts that were presenting were large urban districts, and they have over a 90% graduation rate.
Wow.
So I'm just going to tell you, we have no excuses, and it is absolutely possible to do this and to educate kids at a very high level successfully and at a high rate. So that's the challenge that's before us, and we're just going to have to be doggedly stay in pursuit of that. And so I'm really excited about that. I wanted to also, I've given you an information sheet. You should each have one of these, and it's all your graduation info. Where to show up, what to wear. This is mainly for me, because this is my first graduation rodeo in Roswell. So, but what we're supposed to wear, where we're supposed to be, and what time we're supposed to be there, and what we're supposed to do after we get there. So all of that information has been compiled for you on that sheet. And then the last thing that I wanted to ask you about is our secondary principal and administrators want to meet with you in maybe a board training environment to go over the secondary redesign And so wanted to look at scheduling that training if we could. So if you have your schedules, can we look at that and see when a good time for that would be?
I don't have mine.
Okay. Do you want us to throw out some, what days are best for y'all? Fridays, Friday afternoons, Friday mornings?
Fridays.
Yeah, Friday afternoon is really, yeah.
Morning or
Anytime.
afternoon?
Afternoon.
Can you do
Afternoon.
Can you do afternoons?
What time?
Well, I mean, it'd be.
Oh, wait, are we talking June?
Well, it's gonna be probably after school gets out, because we're not gonna have time this Friday or next Friday.
Then I'm good.
Okay. Okay,
Right,
so
I don't have to
we'll
pick
just
up
look at a
kids.
Friday afternoon, maybe after Memorial Weekend, so that you get through with Hike It and Spike It, and we get through graduation, and we have time to sit and think about it. Does that work? Okay, so I'll get that set up, and,
Sometime in June, you said?
probably, maybe that first Friday after Memorial Weekend. I don't know what no? June 14th, will that work?
No, that won't. We'll be in the law conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
7th, maybe?
The 7th would work for me.
I'll be gone.
21st.
I will too.
Yes,
21st
Huh?
would work.
yes.
21st?
Yes.
The 21st would
Are we
work.
getting too late?
Will the 21st work? Or the first Friday in June? No, 7th won't work.
Okay. No, Ms. Kirk will be
And you
gone.
can't do the 31st?
Of May.
Uh-huh. Okay. Can we do the 21st of June?
Yeah,
I can do that.
that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll plan on June 31st.
June 24th.
I'm sorry, 21st. That's what I was writing, but not saying. And we'll just do maybe 1 to 3 or 1 to 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Is that on mute?
I don't know.
Okay, Kathleen wants to be unmuted.
Unmuted?
Is it on mute?
It wasn't, she was on there.
Well, can she hear me? She texting you?
Yeah.
I don't know how to unmute.
Hit the
Royce,
mute
do you know how to
button.
unmute?
Yeah, just hit the mute button.
None of the buttons have been pushed. These are all still working. That
How many board members does it take to?
speaker?
There we go.
Oh, she wasn't on speaker that whole time. Poor Kathy. Dr. Pittman,
It's Dr. Pittman,
you.
and I can't meet with you the 21st.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm glad you
Back to the drawing board.
said something
Yeah.
about that.
Well, I
Does it
would
have
have
to be a-
if
can we
you
do it
hadn't
after
had
this?
me on
It
mute.
doesn't have to be a
I
Friday.
didn't have you on mute. I just didn't have you on speaker. It's really
What?
Dr. McElroy's fault.
Okay.
How about like the 6th or a Thursday? What works for you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, when we're talking after school's out, I'm good almost any day.
Can we do a Thursday afternoon?
I'm going to be out of town on the I believe it's the
When's the law
21st and
conference?
22nd of June.
Okay.
So then we could look at the week before or any other
The
day.
6th or the 13th?
No, I leave on the 6th.
When is the law conference?
14th and 15th.
14th and
Oh,
15th.
13th is, we're gonna be getting
Yeah.
ready to go. But we could do it before the law conference. What do you think? The 13th afternoon?
I'll be gone.
You'll be there already, right? Because you have the executive.
Yeah.
The
But,
executive.
no, I'll be on vacation.
Oh,
Oh,
anybody 3rd through the 7th?
The 17th?
The 6th and 7th I'll be out, but I could do any other day that week. And I don't necessarily have to be there.
the 5th
Because the
afternoon, Wednesday?
principals are gonna be presenting, so.
What about the 5th, Wednesday afternoon?
5th?
I think so.
Can you do Wednesday the 5th?
Wait, she's-
Dr. Pittman?
June 5th?
She's gone.
Sonia, that won't work?
She totally hung up.
Okay, I leave the 6th, the morning of the 6th.
The 5th would work then, right?
Yeah, I could do the afternoon of the 5th, I think,
Afternoon, June 5.
unless I have a doctor's appointment. I think I have an eye appointment, though.
Call dropped again.
I know.
Call
Yeah,
her.
later that month,
gotta- I
like the
don't like that to
18th,
give you a number.
19th,
Hold on.
anytime in there, the later in the
That's
month.
when Kathleen's gonna be
Yeah, and then she'll be gone.
leaving, so.
How about
Well-
the 24th, 5th, 6th? 27th?
I tell you what, I'll send some possible dates, and y'all
Yep.
just
Yep.
thumbs up
We'll
or thumbs
confuse you
down.
even more.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Sometimes
But I
you
want
can
you,
just-
I want you looking at that, so anyway. But that's all I have. Chad, do you have anything?
Okay, you're back again.
Oh, did you want to talk about construction down there?
What's happening,
Oh.
Mr. Debbie?
I'm
Uh,
gonna send an email.
We're gonna do email to get everybody, that's all.
Okay.
And I asked Chad to give an update on the Del Norte construction project, just so you know where it is.
Okay.
Just very
And I can
quickly.
move really quick.
Okay.
So, yeah, you, as a board, you granted the contract to Wade Construction back on January 8th. You'll recall that our election for funding was February 5th, and that the Monday following that February 5th, they were starting construction. They were grading the fields out there on the south side of the school, which is gonna be phase 1 of a 2-story construction. You'll notice that land that property we own right across the street is the set-up staging area. They keep materials and equipment over there, and stage things like that. So you probably, if you've driven by it recently, you've seen a lot of grading work going on over there. We're about 3 feet above the grade, which is a good thing for drainage and all of those types of things, particularly on a 2-story building. We're using what are called geo-piers, and this is really kind of an interesting way of doing it. 620 different geo-piers that are planted down firmly into the soil to stabilize the building. And it saves you on cost, on grading and backfill of that, and it also gives you more strength, particularly on a 2-story building. But so the budget is 22.5 million. You know that particularly you, Mr. Sanchez, over the last 13 years, we've done 13 schools, and we've done them on time and on budget. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal to our taxpayers to be at 22.5 million, and we're already reducing the cost with a change order of 150,000 by using those geo-piers as opposed to more backfill on the front end of the project. Working with Wade they're outstanding. They're all over it day in and day out. You don't have to worry about them. We do, but you don't have to because they are all over it. So with that, any questions? They're getting after it.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
That's cool.
Drive
And
by
you can see
daily.
it.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Mr. Bird.
All right, so President Getty, Dr. McElroy, members of the board, one thing that I want to give to you tonight is the invitation for the retirement tea that we're having tomorrow. So you guys are all invited. I guess we'd have to be in separate corners, but no. I'm just-
Don't talk to each other.
But we're having that at the Bassett Center tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. I know the ladies that put it on in my office, along with Miss Whitcamp, have been working very hard on it, so I encourage you to come and see what's going on. We have some gifts this year for the retired teachers that I think they're really going to like. I'm not going to take credit for it because buying gifts isn't my thing. This was Dr. McElroy's idea, so you have that. Obviously, you have your monthly personnel report. Not a lot going on. It'll be a bigger report next month once we finish out the year with final resignations and those kind of things, and then we'll start to see some maneuvering in the district of some transfers where teachers have asked for new assignments and things like that. The other two sheets that you have with you tonight, I'm going to try to go negative then positive before we don't get alarmed with your open positions report, because what I've done right here, I've updated everything that we have currently. Even though we have teachers in those positions until the end of the year, this is kind of what we're looking at. I know it looks kind of nerve-wracking, but by June, July, that number will be down just because, we'll start getting the hiring process done for the upcoming school year. What I'm really excited about is the list of letters of intent that we got from each of the job fairs. I've listed the job fair that they were at, obviously the date, and then the applicant's name, position, and school, and then if it's a TBD or anything like that, we just haven't placed them yet because we're kind of waiting to see how things kind of shake out, but we're definitely going to have a spot for them here in the district. You'll notice the one at the very top has already, and I'll tell you, she's already come in, signed all of her paperwork. So we're just waiting to get started next school year. But she was one of two at that school that was graduating this year. So we're really.
So we got 50% of them.
Yeah. And then.
Because we're just that good.
Yeah. And then we sent the dream team down to Jacksonville State. And, they did really well. They got 7 to sign. One of the things that I'm excited about, it's a team effort. I'm not going to take hardly any credit on this. The folks that have gone out to the career fairs, Ms. Trujillo, the director of professional development, we've been emailing, calling, following up to, really make these folks feel at home. And so the other person that has already come too is the one from UTEP. We've already signed him up, and, he's young and energetic and ready to go, so we're excited. So at this time, I'll stand for any questions.
This is good.
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
working. It's working, especially the dream team, Mrs.
Yeah.
Ingram. Let's keep utilizing those hot shots that are bringing them in.
Well,
Those young, energetic, full of energy. They'll stand above
and
everybody
we're going to
else.
be very strategic about that. I know we're going to suggest heavily next year to those people that we want out there that, hey, we need you there. And so didn't do that as much this year, but, the voluntold type thing, like, hey, we need you to go and help us out.
Well, and just getting recommendations back from the people that did go out on what they think would work better. And, like Mr. DeSoto told me, if we could send some coaches, because there are a lot of kids out there that are wanting to coach, and they want to know that there's a spot available for them. And so we tried to get a few of them this year. It didn't work out. So next year we may do some more voluntolding on that. It's just a great way to get people excited about coming here. So that, and we're just going to be so stinking awesome. They're not going to want to miss
They're gonna
out.
wanna come here.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Good.
anyway.
Thank you. Good job.
Next.
Short and sweet.
Ms. Steinhardt and Mr. Barra, they're just going
Wake
to talk
up and
very
come
briefly
on.
about the new NGSS adoption process. They have 2 slides and 2 minutes to complete the slides.
A minute apiece.
We can do it, absolutely. And I'm pretty excited that we're up here. Come on here, partner. You complete me. Good evening, President Getty, Superintendent McElroy, and members of the board. I'm very excited to talk to you this evening about our process for selecting science instructional materials. Mr. Vera and I came on board in January of this year, and we immediately got started with our science adoption process through the identification of our cadres at the elementary. What that looks like is a representative from each elementary school, from K2 and from 3-5. I brought those teams in to deconstruct standards, to learn about the shifts in the next gen science standards, and explained what their piece in helping us be great at science instruction and learning as the instructional leads in their building. We formed a adoption committee that included principals, primary teacher representation, intermediate teacher representation, special education, and ELL, and went through the process with them. And we've really leveraged and used this time as also a training and professional development on orienting our teachers towards using the NGSS, because there are some shifts in there with the new national standards in science. We had publisher presentations from Pearson, Houghton Mifflin, STEM Scopes, and Amplify. Our science cadre leads training presentation at the school sites for each publisher, bringing all of the teachers on board. Teachers taught sample lessons. The PLCs in their individual grade levels completed rubrics, and then rubrics we used the EQUIP rubric. It was completed by every grade level in every elementary and submitted to me last week on Friday. We also had an evening for the parents and community to also come in and preview the materials. And I've finished tabulating everything, and I by grade level, by school, it looks like the elementary has selected Amplify, which is it is based on the Lawrence, the UC Berkeley Lawrence Hall of Science, and Amplify is the publisher. It's a nice blend between online learning, but online resources, instructional materials, and also the student materials. So I'm very excited and pleased with the process.
Thank you. Mr. President, as McElroy, members of the board, we do understand that the foundation of good teaching begins with really placing a kid with the right teacher, with the right material, within the right setting. So based on that, we just want to make sure that we actually pick the right instructional material. So for the secondary group, we really honed in on trying to find a way to triangulate data, to be able to pick the right resource. So yes, we did form the cadres, then went through the process of unpacking the standards and begin to build a scope and sequence. But for the textbook adoption, we looked at 3 data points. One was the paper screen, which is, hey, let's just look through this material, use the EQUIP rubric, which is great. But beyond that, though, we wanted to really pilot the materials in the classroom to see exactly how it's playing out. We use kids' feedback as part of that pilot. And then in addition to those 2 data points, we had the vendors actually teach a lesson, actually rate the lesson itself. So went beyond just having a vendor just come in and just do the regular fluff, it all looks great. We want to actually teach a lesson from the material. So combining all 3 data points, we're able to select the instructional material. So the middle schools picked STEM scopes, which I'm pretty excited about that. The high school team picked HMH, which is pretty good too. We tried to make sure that it was a collaborative process and that we did not in any shape and form influence their decision one way or the other.
Very cool.
Any questions?
Yep. Congratulations.
That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you. Good job, guys.
And principals jumping up and down, so looks like it's going to be a good thing.
Okay, so it's time for board communication. I'm gonna go first tonight,
Okay,
and then we'll go right down.
sounds good.
All right?
Go for it.
I'll make this real quick, because it has to be. As we are coming down to the end of the year, I saw, and I wanted to share it, but I didn't get it quick enough, the craziest video so look up Texas A&M track. And this year, there was a kid last year in the 400 meter who came in second place. And this year, he ran the 400 meter, and he was bound and determined to win. And he's a hurdler. So he goes over the last hurdle, and he's got he's about this far ahead. And the guy's catching up. and he's got 3 feet to go. He's exhausted. If you've ever run the 400 meter, you know there is nothing left at the end of that, especially when you're running at 46 seconds or 49 seconds. I can't remember. He leaps. He literally dives. He does a Superman to win the race. Ouch is right. He's rolling on it, but he won the race. And as I'm watching the video, and I'm watching it over and over, because I'm thinking, did he really do that, or did he fall? What was the goal? I mean, he Supermaned it. And I thought, here we are with 2 weeks left. Which one of us are willing to take that dive, to sacrifice our body and everything for this last 2 weeks? Because it gets rough. The kids become unruly. My 2 kids become unruly. And we're at that moment. And it's like, but we want to win. And this is it. We get the win by diving.
It's going to be another hour.
Kathleen, you're unmuted.
You're unmuted, Kathleen. But anyway, so that I just, if anybody wants to go watch it, Texas A&M track diver, I think is what it is, and there's videos everywhere. But just absolutely insane. And I think, are we willing? Is winning that important to us, all of the staff at the schools, to finish strong? Yeah. I mean, there will be a sermon illustration coming someday. So.
My turn.
Did you?
So as Ellen said, we're at the last 2 weeks. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I always see those things on Facebook where, shows teachers at the beginning of the year, all proper and good morning students. And at the end of the year, it's, hair pulled out. And, it's just one of those things where, Alan said they've probably been through heck all year long. So I really want to thank everybody in the district that has a part in raising these kids. It starts from the cafeteria worker from cooking, breakfast and lunch to make sure these kids are fed so then they can learn. It takes the janitors, the custodians, making sure that school is clean so we don't spread disease and we keep kids in class. From the teacher, from EAs that are helping those teachers, librarians, teachers in the classroom every single day, giving their heart and soul to those kids. Mine comes home sometimes and she's jumping for joy, and then there's times she comes home and she's crying her eyes out. But she goes back and she loves it and she wants more, because it's about those kids and it's about raising these kids. And if you guys add up the numbers, we even talk about this, even going to our jobs on a daily basis, those kids spend more time in that classroom with that teacher than they do at home. Mm-hmm. So not only are we educating, we're raising these kids. So to the administrators, those individuals leading, I guess you can call those boats, because I'm going to talk about the ship here in a minute. So to those leaders in those buildings, you're key to keeping those individuals motivated to where we do raise these kids and they do walk across the what's the terminology? The stage. Yeah, it's been a long day, and we do get to that 90% one of these days. So thank you for everything that you do. Our individuals here, admin, administrators, assistant superintendents, directors, thank you for what you do too. I've seen a new vision this year and change, and it's a good thing. And remember that it starts from here. Everybody looks at you guys too. And I thank you for everything that you do. It's getting pushed out, and people are recognizing that. So thank you for going that extra mile. To the captain of the ship, we're at the end of the year. When we started this year, we had a brand new face, and it was Dr. Annalyn McElroy. And I think we were all kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. It was a new superintendent, and what are we going to get? And I can't tell you, talking about enthusiasm about the changes I've seen in this district, it's very refreshing when you have teachers in the classroom say that my superintendent actually affected me, or something that she did affected me, or I had input on something that is gonna make a difference or change a path forward, or making a decision in this district. I can't give you enough praise in what you've done this year. It's been phenomenal. From reaching out to our individual, or the public when it comes to our strategic plan, building that team, getting the all-encompassing picture. We haven't seen that in a long time, and I appreciate, Dr. McElroy, that you start from the bottom and work your way up, and you actually recognize those individuals that are in the classroom every day, or those leaders in the community, and you get their input. Because when we're raising these kids, it's all one team. Like you said earlier, it's not an individual. It takes a tribe to get this stuff done. And without a good team from the bottom up, we won't be successful. And the enthusiasm is up. Teachers are wanting to teach, and they're excited to teach. And they're excited to hear what you say half the time. So I appreciate everything you've done. And as captain of the ship, salute you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna piggyback off the first two. So, yeah, it's May, and it will be 4 years that I've been retired. July 1st, it will have been 4 years. And how quickly you forget what it's like hitting the last month of school. I can tell you there is hope for all those that are about to retire or going to retire. You'll live through it. But this past month has been really difficult, I guess. It's been difficult in the schools. I have received more inquiries about student discipline in the past 2 weeks than I did all year long. I guess it's to that point where teachers are frustrated, and they don't blame the discipline on the principal. They say their principal's doing all they can. In fact, I was at an awards assembly, and one of our teachers of the year grabbed me and said, you know, teachers are so frustrated with discipline, with the way things are going. You ask them, do you want more money? Do you want less kids in your classroom? Do you want more resources? And their answer is no. They want to be able to teach. And that just broke my heart, that teachers just want to teach without the classroom disruptions. Then I've had parents call me, and parents contact me, stop me, and say, my child doesn't want to go back to school because of the A, B, C, and D happened in the classroom. And for all of you out there in viewing land that are texting me and telling me, you know, you elected me to be your voice, and so I promised you I would bring this up. And I have talked to our assistant superintendent, and there is a plan. There's a lot going on. There's a lot happening in our district. And I just want to say, use your chain of command. Start with the teacher. Go to your principal. Then from your principal, you still have resources. You can do your director, then your assistant superintendent. There is help out there. Don't feel defeated. I know Sonia had spoken to me about CHAMPS. Y'all are implementing that program next year to help. And that's K through 12, am I correct? So that will be a great resource. And will parents get educated on this too? Is there a component for parents? Family engagement component. Family engagement component. So parents should be able to see this happening in their schools. And I commend you for knowing what's going on and trying to work with our schools to bring some kind of order, because there it is. I know it's going to only get worse. So everybody in our district will be trained on this. And this is going to happen during the summer, throughout the school year.
So yes, we're offering trainings throughout the summer, and we want to hold that carrot and provide them some opportunities. Should they not take advantage of it during the summertime, then there will be a session the first 2 days of school. So instead of being able to have time in their classroom, they'll have to attend the training. So we will pay them for coming in to training during the summertime, but the whole idea is to have everybody trained before they walk back into their classroom next year. We have a common vocabulary across the district and a systematic way to address problems that happen through problem-solving teams and multi-level systems of support.
And I know we had the conversation that it kind of mirrors Harry Wong's on steroids. Am I correct? Is that and capturing kids' heart? It has a lot of components that have been around for so long. It's just getting the information out into the schools and to the teachers for that help. So there is help on the way.
And that's just one component, but yes, we have recognized it. Kids are different. And so we now have to catch up and make sure that we have the tools for teachers.
Well, I think it's awesome. I'm really excited to see the program itself, because I went through Capturing Kids' Hearts, and of course, we did first days of school with Harry Wong, so I'm really excited about seeing that program and seeing how it works and fits together, K through 12. So by the time your kindergartners reach high school, they'll have had that training and be rocking and rolling with it. Thank you. Thank you all for all you do, and good luck. See you at graduation. Okay, I'm done. James.
I think that was a good job y'all did today on those presentations. That's one of the things I'm going to say. Let's just get through the rest of this school year without any controversy or adversity. And remember who we're here for. And that's the kids, the staff, and the parents. A lot of times parents don't feel like they're being heard. But it's like I've told parents, if you don't say nothing, they don't hear anything. And I'm going to piggyback off of what Mona said, but then I'm going to add a little bit more, and then I'm going to end it. A lot of the problems that are happening in the schools, a lot of people don't know what's going on in the schools, and that's just it. It's just reality until the kid gets home and then they tell their parents. But what I've learned is the people downtown here are pretty receptive, and they listen. Because all I do is I say, hey, I'll check into it, and I make a phone call, and the follow-up has been very good. Mr. Bird can attest to that, and I'll just put him on the spot because he's been receptive. He listens, a follow-up is done, and the issues are taken care of. So a lot of times these problems that are happening in the school, nobody knows about it because the kids wait until the last minute to say something. And I know how many times, I don't know how many times I've told parents, if you got something to say, come in here and sign up on that book and bring it to that attention, because I've been advocating, but then the parents don't show. The parents have a certain level of responsibility. And the reason the kids don't want to go to school, and I'm just going to put it out there, a lot of times they don't want to go to school. I've got a 17-year-old stand with me right now, and boy, I feel for parents that are the biological parents of these kids, because man, these kids they're tough. They're tougher than I ever thought about. And so I think we're on the right track, and let's just have a good graduation and hope everybody stays safe until we meet again on graduation.
That's right.
And that's pretty much it.
Dr. Pittman, did you have any comments tonight?
I do. I want to thank the secondary arts people. I got to attend the opening, the elementary too, the opening of the elementary arts gallery at Eastern New Mexico Medical Center. The orchestra and chorus did an amazing spring concert at Goddard High School. the bands and the jazz band had their spring concert at Roswell High. Middle school and high school visual arts had a showing at the Anderson Museum. And I really appreciate all of the hard work of the students, the teachers, and those parents that get those kids where they need to be and come and see what they've been working on. So I really appreciate that. That's all, Mr. Getty.
Okay, that was a long pause. All right. Yes, that's what I was going to say. I'm glad you said that there because I was about. This is the end of our regular meeting agenda. May I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Okay. I have a motion made by Dr. Pittman. I have a second made by Ms. Kirk. May I have a roll call, please?
Alan Getty,
Yes.
Ruben Sanchez,
Yes.
Kathleen Pittman,
Yes.
Mona Kirk,
Yes.
James Edwards.
Yes.
Okay. Time is 9:10.